Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Godlike Naruto sword master Sasuke bashing. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Writers of the Storm and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Yugao Yuzuki was Konohagakure no Sato's premier swordsman. Her skill with the sword far exceeded the basic instruction that constituted the minimal training that was bestowed upon the ANBU within whose ranks she has assimilated into. As a member of the Black Ops division of her ninja village, Yugao had been exposed to missions most ninja within the ranks of the village couldn't even fathom. Considering this facet of her life, Yugao was understandably upset when the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, assigned her to watch over Konoha's resident troublemaker and pariah while squad rotation policies were being implemented. The vast majority of Konoha's adult population was well aware of the fact that Naruto Uzumaki played host and jailer to the most powerful entity known to civilization as a result of some clever handiwork by the late fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze. In a desperate attempt to save the village he was sworn to protect, Minato sacrificed his life in order to contain the Kyuubi no Yoko within Naruto. Regrettably, Naruto was seen as a physical representation of the suffering and carnage that was caused when the Kyuubi attacked Konoha. As such, many of the villagers indulged in the therapeutic act of destroying the 9-year-old body and spirit to derive some sort of compensation for their losses. It was during one of these therapeutic sessions that Yugao was able to track Naruto being chased by a rotund and inebriated member of Konoha's civilian population. A few short moments earlier, the aforementioned civilian had spotted a less than stealthy orange-clad Naruto attempt to take advantage of the food a bakery had discarded after the end of the working day. While Naruto wasn't an aspiring freegan, he knew better than to pass up on an opportunity on some decent quality bread. The unidentified civilian had spotted the village's punching bag in the alleyway that had access to the bakery. Naruto turned around at the sound of a wooden crate being kicked aside and shuddered in fear when he saw a man holding a glass bottle in his hand approach him with a menacing look in his eyes. Dropping the half loaf of bread in his hand, Naruto's eyes scanned the vicinity for anything he could use within easy reach to defend himself. Finding a 3-foot-long piece of metal at his side, Naruto decided to take advantage of the drunk's uncoordinated movement and use a swift guerrilla tactic to make an escape. Naruto took a few deep breaths to steady his heart and held the piece of metal in front of him in a form that felt most natural to him. From the rooftops that surrounded the alleyway, Yugao watched with interest as her charge for the night calmed himself and adopted a most peculiar stance with what she assumed was a rudimentary substitute for the sword that was on her person. Yugao made no move to interfere in this volatile situation as her mission parameters clearly indicated that her presence was not to be discovered unless absolutely crucial. Besides, from her position on the rooftop, with a deft flick of her wrist, she could launch kunai and or shuriken to wound the man, giving her charge sufficient time to escape. Naruto had managed to steady his previously panicked state of being and was assessing his options. Naruto was terrified as the man before him was wider than he was tall and possessed a weapon of his own as well in the form of the bottle whose contents he had just consumed. The sheer size of his opponent for the night became more imposing with every echoing step as the man took towards his prey. Naruto backed up into the shadows of the alleyway to create some space between himself and his adversary. Naruto quickly realized this means of action was futile as the large man continued to consume the space between the two with each purposeful and swaying stride. Carefully watching the right arm of the man within which the empty bottle lay firmly clasped, Naruto awaited the moment that would allow him to counterattack and hopefully escape this current predicament. As the drunken man readied his charge upon the hapless boy, a cruel smirk graced his features. Continuing upon his charge, the man made towards the boy in an attempt to knock the boy down with a single devastating blow to the top of his head. Naruto noticed the arc of the man's arm and quickly decided on a course of action. He lunged forwards, surprising his attacker, and sidestepped the man's attack during his brief moment of hesitation. Naruto was well within his attacker's guard and swung his makeshift weapon as viciously as possible upon the man's right ankle, eliciting a stumble and a howl of pain from the man. Naruto didn't stop to survey his success as he bolted away from his assailant, only momentarily slowing down to exchange his weapon for the previously discarded bread loaf. Naruto ran towards his apartment, adrenaline coursing through his veins as he left the man in alley, shouting profanities to his own devices. The experience was surreal and exhilarating for young Naruto as this marked the first time he was able to escape from such an encounter with both the food he was desperately craving and an injury-free body. Navigating the streets of Konoha as expertly as possible for a 9-year-old, Naruto reached his shoddy apartment mere minutes later. With the mission accomplished, the adrenaline left his body as quickly as it came and the resulting crash meant that Naruto barely reached the trodden couch in his living quarters before his eyes closed. The prize for surviving the encounter, the half-consumed loaf of bread, lay on the floor temporarily forgotten until breakfast the next morning. Yugao reported the night's events to the Hokage as soon as she was able to verify that Naruto had reached his apartment. A small smile graced her features as she watched the boy crash into his couch, falling asleep with a smile of his own plastered firmly onto his face. Upon reaching her commander's office, she relayed the events of the night with unerring detail. It was clear to the aged Hokage that the ANBU agent was particularly proud of how the young boy had stood up for himself using a makeshift sword. The unmistakable hint of pride is what led to the current topic of conversation between the pair. Hokage-sama, Yugao spoke reverently, if you would allow it, I would like to teach Naruto the basics of kenjutsu so that he may be prepared for such situations, if and when the need arises. While his strategy was sound, he was up against a drunken man who had no formal training in any form of combat. The Hokage turned around to face the massive window in his office as he pondered his charge's request. Hiruzen loved the boy dearly and was painfully aware of the mistreatment he was subject to on a daily basis. The idea proposed by Yugao greatly appealed to him until he realized that members of his council, both ninja and civilian, would be in uproar as they learned that the village pariah was being tutored by one of their elite ninjas. The ensuing actions would only cause Naruto more harm than good, as more members of the populace might be tempted to cause bodily harm to the child. As the Hokage turned back around to face Yugao, she identified the defeated slump of her commander's shoulder, and correctly guessed that she would not be given the affirmative. Yugao-chan, the Hokage began looking into her eyes, conveying his thoughts on the matter with the mere address. I understand, Hokage-sama. Yugao picked up the signals easily. She chose to continue, however. I just wish there was some way to pass on instruction to the boy. The pain was clear in his eyes, if only masked behind his determination. That statement sparked an idea in the Hokage's mind. The problem arose from private tutoring and reallocation of a competent ninja's abilities towards a lost cause in the eyes of both councils, but not the passing on of instruction. Yugao-chan, I want a critical assessment of Naruto's physical abilities and mental capacity to the best of your ability submitted within a week from today, along with a recommended training program for the boy to compensate for any lacking in either criteria. I cannot have you spend time tutoring the boy, as this would be seen in a bad light by the wretched council, but maybe you can pass on your knowledge in written form. Yugao snapped her eyes to meet those of the Hokage. The idea was sound, since instilling the fundamentals of combat need not require an active tutor. Naruto could learn from scrolls about adequate exercises, basic kenjutsu, and if he took the matter seriously, he would instill discipline into his life, a value most important for a disciple of kenjutsu. Giving a sharp nod to her commander and a quick salute, Yugao snapped back her mask on and disappeared in a flurry of leaves. The Hokage sighed once again. Sure, a great problem was on the verge of being solved, but why did his ninja insist on leaving his office using a leaf shunshin? They always left leaves behind in his office. Chapter 2, First Steps. It had been a week since Yugao witnessed Naruto's exploits in the alleyway. It was time for her to give in her report on the matter as assigned to her by her commander. Over the past week, Yugao had been assigned a full-time mission that involved the safety and assessment of the aspiring Konoha ninja. To the best of her abilities, the ANBU ninja avoided interfering with the daily activities of the boy. However, there was one incident where her skills and expertise were called forth for the sake of Naruto's protection. As Yugao walked towards the Hokage's office from her ANBU base, she recalled the events of that night. Yugao watched Naruto from the shadows on the rooftops, as she had been doing for the past 5 days. Naruto had just received his monthly allowance from the Hokage 2 days ago, and Naruto decided he would treat himself to his favorite meal, ramen. As he returned from a relatively late supper from Mama Nichiraku, a smiling Naruto decided on taking the scenic route back to his apartment on the outer periphery of the housing complex in the northeastern quadrant of the village. As he passed through the dense foliage that made up a significant portion of this part of the village, he failed to notice the 4 burly men that had been following him since he passed by Konoha Stadium. As Naruto passed by the disused Hataki clan house far to his right, his pursuers were confident of their revenge, as this portion of Konoha was significantly less populated. However, as soon as they spotted Naruto turn in towards his apartment complex, all 4 men felt a sharp spike of killing intent wash upon them in a suffocating wave. One of the men, Shinji, turned around to identify the source of this nauseating feeling and promptly soiled his pants at the sight before him. His yell alerted his comrades to his predicament, and they pivoted from their spots to a sight that would haunt them for weeks to follow. A sadistically smiling demonic specter was waving a large sword at the men, and upon further realization they noted that the specter was pointing the sword in turn at their respective gentlemen's sausages. With a collective yell, the 4 men continued down their path towards the main gates of the village in a panicked haste, as far away from the demonic form as possible. Later all 4 men would all swear that the container of the Kyuubi had made a deal with the demon to protect the area around which he lived. Yugao smirked under her cat-pattern mask. Some part of that story actually held merit. Yugao had to admit that she indulged herself at that moment. The pleasure she obtained with a sharp burst of killing intent and a simple genjutsu had plastered a smile upon her face for the rest of the week. As Yugao reached the doors that led to the Hokage's office and raised her arm to knock upon, she heard the fatherly voice of her commander beckoning her in. Come on in, Yugao-chan invited the Hokage. Yugao stood smartly and patiently as she waited for Hiruzen to finish looking over the last pieces of paperwork for the day, sanctioning the last mission request and placing the appropriate stamp upon the sheet marking its ranking as a function of difficulty. Hiruzen smiled and patted himself on the back. It was only just past 3 o'clock and he had finished his work for the day, and was now about to approve of a training scheme that would potentially change Naruto's life for the better. He waved a hand in front of Yugao to signal that she may begin with her report. Yugao placed the written report into the outstretched arm of the Hokage and continued with her oral report. Naruto Uzumaki is a 9-year-old citizen of Konoha who will be applying to join the Konoha Ninja Academy at the start of the next intake. For his age he seems to be of the appropriate height, but is substantially lacking in weight. This is mainly due to the lack of a balanced diet and an inconsistent food intake. After following him around for the past week, I have deduced that he is quite adept with his agility but would require additional strength training during his academic years to be on par with Kiba Inuzuka and Sasuke Uchiha, his future classmates at the academy. Yugao paused for a moment to ascertain whether the Hokage had any questions after her physical assessment of her target, and when she determined otherwise, began recounting what she could about Naruto's mental facilities. Continuing her report, Yugao took a quiet breath before she recounted the rest of her findings. Naruto's reading ability seems to be severely retarded. While he is able to correctly identify all of the items on the ramen Ichiraku's menu, I believe it is only due to character recognition and memory. I am from the ramen stand is known to have aided Naruto with his reading ability, limited as they might be. In reference to Naruto's memory, the boy is able to absorb information that appeals to him like a sponge, and his recall of the same is most impressive for a 9-year-old boy, with no formal education or parental guidance. Yugao did not stop her report even as she noticed the downcast look on Hiruzen's face as she mentioned this last facet concerning Naruto's life. She was well aware of the Hokage's connection towards the boy and his inability to change the dilemma that was Naruto Uzumaki's life due to the politics involved in the situation. Naruto's most impressive characteristic stems from his ability to adapt to any situation wherein he is in a pinch. He is able to ascertain 2 or 3 options out of a delicate situation with relative ease, but unfortunately his body cannot cope with the expectations of his plans due to the frailty of his physical condition as well as the superiority of his opponents in the same category. Thank you. The Hokage had expected much the same analysis, and was pleasantly pleased to note that the unfortunate living conditions of the boy had not negatively impacted his mental facilities. Hiruzen looked up from the report he had been presented and looked up expectantly at his charge. This was the fun part. So Yugao-chan, what do you have in mind in terms of instruction for Naruto-kun? The Hokage finished. Yugao's eyes lit up at the prospect of being able to administer a toned-down version of her own training schedule from her Chunin days onto a fresh academy student. The idea of raising a Kenjutsu master in Konoha the likes of which had never been seen before was exhilarating. She was certain that if Naruto followed this path with the same level of devotion as she had when she was Chunin, Konoha would secure a valuable asset to its services, and the prospect of playing such a fundamental role in this development was driving her absolutely giddy. She began to explain her plans for Naruto's development, as was outlined in her report. First and foremost, it is important to strengthen his body and improve the boy's speed and stamina. In order to accomplish this, I propose sword swinging and basic physical exercises as well as running to improve speed and stamina. The finer details of this section of the training regimen are outlined in the report. To supplement his physical training, some light reading about combat strategy will educate him on relevant subject matters as well as improve his reading ability. There will be no instruction in Kenjutsu katas until either one of us can determine his physical adequacy. The Hokage wholeheartedly approved of the proposed system. While it was slightly harsh for a boy of his age to be told he was going to have to earn the approval of a mysterious teacher to further his Kenjutsu studies, Hiruzen's limited exposure to Bojutsu made him realize that discipline was a key element in training with the sword. Hiruzen matched eyes with Yugao and nodded once to show that he approved. Beaming with pride, Yugao looked expectantly at the Hokage and requested a favor. Hokage-sama, I would like to donate the Bakken that I received from my master to further Naruto's study. The Hokage smiled. A Bakken is but a mere piece of wood used to train apprentices in the art of Kenjutsu. However, the symbolic significance of the act was not lost on Hiruzen. A Bakken, while inexpensive, could still be used for sparring purposes, even at AMB level, and for Yugao to part with the Bakken that her master had presented to her was indicative of the faith she placed in the boy's hands. This Bakken was being passed down from Konoha's premier swordsman to possibly her first and last student. Hiruzen would not deny Yugao the courtesy and Naruto the honor of this transaction, even if the boy would not find out the identity of his master and instructor, and the significance of the token for several years to come. Nodding once again in approval, Hiruzen waited expectantly. Yugao presented the Hokage with a simple sealing scroll within which a training schedule and the Bakken were sealed. The Hokage took the scroll from his ninja wordlessly and placed it within one of the drawers in his desk until it could be handed on into Naruto's possession. Yugao bowed slightly and was about to take her leave when Hiruzen spoke again. I want the boy to have a normal life, well, as normal for a ninja as possible. I wish that he meets his peers and creates new experiences with new friends and his future Genin team. However, after he makes it to Chunin, I would like to present you with the opportunity to apprentice the boy if you would like. Yugao looked back up from her bow and replied sagely to the Hokage. I would very much like the opportunity, Hokage-sama, but it would be necessary for the boy to take up the art in earnest before I can bestow upon him my instruction and knowledge. Very well, replied the Hokage. We shall address this issue when it is time to cross that bridge. Hi, Hokage-sama. Smiling back at the Hokage, Yugao made a quick hand seal and took her leave. The smile on Hiruzen's face quickly vanished as he swore at her departure. Damn it, not again with the leaves. However, the smile returned to his face at the prospect of securing Naruto's safety with this new training regimen. Naruto was not accustomed to having visitors at his apartment. Every month, usually in the first week, a ninja would appear at his doorstep informing him that the Hokage had summoned him. This was done so that the Hokage could give Naruto his monthly allowance. However, Naruto had already received his allowance for the month of November, and he was sure that if the Hokage was to meet him he would not arrive so early. He never came to visit Naruto until the late evening. So Naruto was suspicious when he heard a knocking at his door. 3 sharp knocks, he noted, definitely ninja, he correctly assumed. When Naruto arrived at his door, he found an Anbu ninja standing outside his door. The Hokage is expecting you, Naruto-san, said the ninja, and then promptly disappeared in a shunshin. 2 visits to the Hokage's office within a space of a week was unusual for Naruto. He wondered if the old man had good news regarding his application to the Ninja Academy, as it was due to start in a little over 2 months' time. Naruto went back into his apartment, and made himself presentable to the Hokage, and then commenced a long walk towards the Hokage Tower. It was times like this that Naruto wondered why he lived so far from the center of the city, and then the condition of his wallet reminded him: cheap rent. Another blessing that stemmed from this early summons was the lack of people en route to his destination. Naruto was painfully aware of all the pointed glares he received as he strode around the village. He was certain he wasn't deserving of everyone's ire, but since no one was offering an explanation nor was anyone actively attempting to hide their dislike for him, Naruto decided he would bear the brunt of this attack as nonchalantly as possible. As he reached the Hokage Tower, he craned his neck as far back as required so that he could see the Hokage's office. He closed his eyes for a minute as he recalled the view from the office with unerring detail. He had seen firsthand the amount of work that went into being the Hokage, but that view from the top must surely be worth the pressures of the job. Maybe I should become a Hokage too, Naruto mused to himself as he climbed the spiral staircase through the spine of the building that would eventually lead him to the Hokage's office. As the Hokage's secretary ushered Naruto towards the office, Naruto opened one of the 2 doors and slid in. With a large smile and a polite wave, Naruto announced his presence to the old man. Good morning, Hokage Gigi. You wanted to see me? Naruto-kun, you made it already? Please take a seat, we have much to discuss, said the Hokage as he smiled to see the exuberant boy enter his office and get comfortable on one of the 2 chairs on the other side of his desk. I'm not in trouble again, am I? Naruto asked the old man. I haven't done anything to trouble anyone since our last talk, I promise. Hiruzen laughed lightly at the expense of the confused child in front of him. No, Naruto. You aren't in any sort of trouble, the Hokage told the boy, causing Naruto to breathe a sigh of relief. At least not yet, added Naruto cheekily, causing Hiruzen to laugh once again with a knowing glint in his eye. Hiruzen was well aware of Naruto's prankster abilities, having fallen victim to the boy's schemes on a few occasions himself. As Naruto watched the Hokage get a serious look in his eye, he sat up straight and focused all his attention on the next words that came out of the Hokage's mouth. Hiruzen began with a look that told Naruto not to interrupt until he had finished speaking. I want to start by saying that your application to start your studies in the Ninja Academy has been accepted and you will be starting in the academic year starting in January. There is some paperwork involved in finalizing the details of your entry, and you will need to sign a document that my secretary will present to you on your way out. Naruto was ecstatic at the news but maintained his silence as per the unspoken request. Hiruzen was pleased with the boy's reaction. Naruto could be brash and outspoken when things were casual, but when it came to business, the boy had an uncanny ability to flip a mental switch and match frequencies with the Hokage. Hiruzen continued the delivery of the news. A lot of young ninja aspirants are trained by their families to gain an advantage in their education as well as to induct their children into the secret techniques of their respective clans. While you do not belong to any clan specifically, I thought I would be able to lend a hand in helping with your training schedule. While I cannot personally oversee your training due to the constraints of my job, I would like to provide you with a scroll that should help you with the basics, physical exercises and basic information that would benefit you before and during the course of your education at the Ninja Academy are outlined in a scroll I have here for you. I will be more than happy to hand over the scrolls to you if you are willing to accept the responsibility of following the instructions within the scroll until completion. Everything within this scroll is compiled for your individual needs, and as this training is exclusive to you, you mustn't share this information with anyone. The famed ninja clans of Konoha do not share their techniques with the others as the training and techniques are suited best for members of their respective clans. For the same reason, you must do the same. Fortunately for you, a training ground exists near your living quarters, does it not? Naruto simply nodded, positively giddy with excitement, and not trusting his voice at the moment. Good, Hiruzen continued, you are free to use that space, but if any other ninja come and request use of the training ground you must vacate the area as they have priority. Is that understood, Naruto-kun? Another nod from Naruto signaled to the Hokage that the message had indeed been received and acknowledged. Do you have any questions, Naruto-kun? Did you really compile a unique training program just for me, Hokage Gigi? Naruto had reason to be critical. He had seen the amount of work that was required of the old man on a daily basis, and compounding his pre-existing burden with another chore seemed unlikely. Hiruzen smiled before he replied, I had some help on the matter from one of my ninja, I must admit. Naruto realized that he was not going to glean any information about the identity of his benefactor, and so simply finished with a polite reply. I will follow the training program you have for me, Hokage Gigi. I promise to put all my efforts to meet whatever you ask of me, but on one condition. Hiruzen already knew of the nature of the condition without it being spoken but let the boy speak it nonetheless. Please convey my thanks to your shinobi Hokage Jiji. I will make you both proud. Naruto finished as he got off his chair and grabbed the contents of the scroll reverently. Hiruzen had unsealed the contents of the scroll as Naruto stood up from his chair to reveal a simple scroll and a bakken with a simple guard. Naruto bowed to the old man before he took his leave, absent-mindedly signing the sheet presented to him by the Hokage's secretary. As it grew quiet within the office, Hiruzen turned to a corner away from his desk and near the still-ajar door and simply said, "So what do you think, Yugao-chan?" Yugao phased into view with her cat-pattern mask affixed to her face, revealing none of her emotions from the corner of the office. "I have great expectations of him, Hokage-sama. After all, he is part Uzumaki and part Namikaze. We all should." Hiruzen nodded and smiled as Yugao proceeded to walk towards the hallways outside the office, closing the door behind her. Indeed, Hiruzen thought. He is part Uzumaki and part Namikaze. It is just unfortunate that he does not realize the significance of the power that courses through his veins. One day, however, that will change. When he becomes Genin, I will tell him about his lineage as well as the beast that resides within him. For now, I am just glad he has one more person to look out after him. Thank you, Yugao-chan. The advantage of residing in the land of fire was the relatively warm winter months. Konoha rarely saw snowfall and even the coldest of winter days did not require much warm clothing to be donned. On one of these days, Naruto was seen running laps around the training ground that was closest to his apartment. Training Ground 4, he later found out after a conversation with the Hokage. Naruto pleasantly recalled his day after he left the Hokage Tower after receiving his training schedule. Naruto continued walking out of the Hokage Tower with the same dazed look on his face as he cruised the streets of Konoha on autopilot. Instinct ensured that he did not bump into any of the pedestrians on the street, but the wide berth the citizens of Konoha gave him in public might have also attributed to his intrusion-free travels. When Naruto was in such a state, his brain inevitably guided him to his safe haven, Ramen Ichiraku. Naruto climbed upon one of the counter stools, still staring at the contents in his possession. Naruto had briefly opened the scroll after he left the Hokage Tower, but the glare of the sun prevented him from reading any further, so he furled the scroll up and continued his examination of the bakken. The bakken intrigued him endlessly. The feel of the wooden sword in his hand, the grind of the guard against his thumb and index finger, and the weight of the bakken itself were all new sensations to the boy. As Naruto sat on the counter stool, Iam's frantically waving arm awoke him from his stupor. "Iam-chan, what are you doing here?" Naruto asked stupidly. Iam's face was graced with a puzzled look as she saw Naruto turn his head from side to side as realization struck both their faces. Iam realized Naruto was distracted by the items in his hand and did not enter the ramen stand consciously, and Naruto finally got accustomed to his surroundings and realized where he was. "So Naruto-kun, what's so interesting about that scroll that has gotten you in such a daze?" Iam asked Naruto probingly. "Iam-chan, I got this scroll and this bakken from the Hokage." Naruto realized that he would probably need help with reading the entire scroll and that Iam had more than proven herself trustworthy to merit knowing the contents of the scroll in his future training. "It's a training regimen to help me prepare for the Ninja Academy. I looked at it briefly and I think I might need your help with reading its contents." "Would you mind?" Naruto finished. "I'd be delighted to, Naruto-kun. But let's not study on an empty stomach. First bowl is on the house." "How you feeling about pork today?" Iam replied, not even waiting for Naruto's response. Pork was always okay. As Iam returned moments later with a steaming bowl of pork ramen, she found Naruto back to his usual demeanor, scroll and bakken lying to his right on the counter, and chopsticks in hand. "Itadakimasu," said Naruto before he began devouring the contents of the bowl. Over the years, Iam and Tsuchi had conditioned Naruto to eat more humanely. However, this first bowl of ramen was attacked with a gusto that Iam suspected had a lot to do with his eagerness to find out the specifics about his training. Naruto ordered one more portion of ramen before he and Iam sat down to read the scroll. As there were no other customers in the ramen stand at the moment, and her father was due to return shortly, Iam did not think twice about helping Naruto right away. She occupied the seat on his right and unfurled the scroll that sat before her. She placed the scroll in front of Naruto, who had moved the second bowl of ramen off to the other side. Naruto attempted to read the instructions listed in the scroll but was unsuccessful in completing the list. As Tsuchi walked in, Naruto took a second attempt at deciphering the words. With a silent wave to the proprietor to acknowledge his presence, Naruto continued to read, this time with some guidance from Iam. In less than half an hour, Naruto had finished reading the scroll's section about physical conditioning. Thanking Tsuchi and especially Iam, Naruto paid for his single bowl of ramen and took his leave from the ramen stand, promising to return soon, as he still had to read the section about his education and he was acutely aware that the concerned section would require a lot more effort and time. Pacing the periphery of the training field, Naruto reflected back onto the handwriting in the scroll. Naruto had seen both Iam and Tsuchi write the specials on the board at the ramen stand. The handwriting on the scroll was even more flowing and delicate than Iam's handwriting. This led to Naruto to believe that the ninja that helped the Hokage was most likely a woman as well. Pleased with his deduction and taking one step closer to unmasking the identity of his benefactor, Naruto smiled to himself. He continued pacing himself to ensure he met his self-assigned goals. Today was stamina training and it was going to be a long day. A few hours later, an exhausted and sweat-drenched Naruto returned to his apartment just as the sun was beginning to drop below the Hokage monument, lending ominous shadows upon the faces carved into the mountainside, making the four faces look more menacing than they did during the day. A quick shower later, Naruto donned a fresh set of clothing and began cooking his supper. Chicken and rice was on today's menu. He would need to supplement his diet better. The scroll had listed various foods for their specific constituents, and the respective benefits of the same towards his physical development. Naruto ate his dinner in a contemplative silence. While his dinners were always eaten in silence due to a lack of companionship, critical thinking and reflection were not often guests during meal times. Naruto had begun reading the second half of the scroll the Hokage had given him. He had had an easier time to read the contents than he previously thought. He had read over a third of the material. It was another long list, this time of books, but unlike his physical training, these books were assigned a priority. Naruto would need to meet the Hokage again as he had no idea where to find these books, as the training program did not list a schedule for his exercises and rather encouraged him to develop his own schedule. Naruto began his first day of training. The previous day was speed training. Naruto had always been quite quick. He recalled several instances where he outran quite a few of the civilians in Konoha and those rare instances when he outpaced young ninja during his prankster escapades. Speed training had been unexpectedly brutal and Naruto had considered it his best attribute. Speed training involved several short sprints and running while making quick directional changes to help improve agility. Naruto had felt the strain in his legs at the end of the day, and he had woken up with a dull throb in his calves in the morning. The scroll had highly recommended taking regular breaks within the regimen to help recovery of muscles. Naruto had understood the logic behind that line of reasoning and decided he would have a break every third day. In addition, the scroll had emphasized flexibility and core fitness and suggested that both these aspects be worked on a daily basis. Core strengthening and flexibility was now included into Naruto's nightly ritual along with his dental hygiene. As Naruto finished his quota of sit-ups and stretching, he prepared himself for bed. He would visit the Hokage tomorrow about the books he would need. The next morning Naruto awoke with a smile. He would be focusing on strength training today, which meant he would finally have a reason to swing the Bakken he received from the Hokage. He decided he would break up his day into two segments, completing the physical exercises in the morning and the sword swinging after lunch. Just before noon, Naruto walked up towards the Hokage tower, slightly apprehensive about the monumental reading list he was about to take on. Waiting patiently until he was summoned inside the Hokage's office, Naruto idly spent the time looking around the office floor. It was completely unexceptional. The double doors that led to the Hokage's room were situated in the far end of the hallway, and the only thing between the staircase and the double doors was the secretary's cubicle on the left-hand side of the hallway, which was currently unoccupied. Naruto sat on a row of chairs that occupied the diagonal wall from the secretary's booth. As the secretary walked out of the Hokage's office, she noticed Naruto sitting on one of the chairs and quickly popped back in. As she came back out again, she motioned to Naruto that the Hokage would see him now. As he walked past her cubicle, Naruto greeted her with a polite "Ohayo Mikoto-san." Mikoto Yamanaka, one of the few people Naruto had seen with blonde hair, replied with an equally polite "Ohayo" and smiled at the boy as he passed. As a former ninja and veteran of the Third Shinobi War, Mikoto was aware of Naruto's status as a Jinchuriki, and had a strong inkling about one half of his parentage. After all, very few people in Konoha's past who weren't Yamanaka's had blonde hair. Naruto opened the doors to the Hokage's office to see the old man waiting expectantly for him. Sarutobi eyed the scroll in Naruto's hand and realized that the boy must have questions regarding some of the material in it. "Ohayo, Naruto-kun. What brings you back? Did you miss this old man so much?" Sarutobi greeted. "Mornin' Hokage-jiji. You wish old man Mikoto-san told me you were missing all the ruckus I would cause pranking people and that I should come in to tell you not to worry and that I am still the same person," Naruto smartly countered. Hiruzen smiled, shifting his many wrinkles as the contours of his face morphed into the happy expression. "I take it you have started on your training, Naruto-kun?" asked Hiruzen. Naruto beamed. Having a training schedule helped him twofold. For one, it kept him out of trouble with the locals, as he did not interact with them much. In addition, training reduced the monotony of his days significantly. Keeping his body active had the added bonus of keeping his mind focused. In response to the Hokage's question, Naruto replied, "I just started. I have had 2 sessions, but I have a question about the reading material you've recommended. I am not sure where I can get these books from." Naruto handed the scroll over to the Hokage, who looked over the list, whose eyes widened in realization as he recognized a slip in his proposed reading schedule for the boy. "Naruto-kun, it seems I have made an oversight. These books can only be accessed by ninja or ninja in training, and so you will only have access to them when you formally begin your education at the Ninja Academy. I recommend that you focus on your physical training for now. We can organize the books for you once the session starts in January, which is just over a month from now," Hiruzen said, realizing his oversight the minute the problem was brought forth. "Were you able to read everything by yourself?" Hiruzen asked, as he was well aware of Naruto's reading ability as it was outlined in the report Yugao presented. Naruto scratched the back of his neck sheepishly. He had made a promise not to share his training details with anyone else, and had almost immediately failed to do so. Nervously, Naruto replied, "Ano." So you see, Naruto faltered, embarrassed by the situation. "I don't read very well, so I needed some help. I asked Ayam-chan from the ramen stand to help. She had been helping me with my reading before, and it made sense that I would go to her about this. I know I said I would keep it a secret, and I am really sorry I didn't, but Ayam-chan is very trustworthy, I assure you." Naruto pleaded for his innocence and Ayam's quality of character. "I trust you, Naruto-kun, but let's make sure that we don't let anyone else know, alright?" Hiruzen said. The Hokage's statement might have ended with a questioning tone, but Naruto knew it was not a request. Naruto nodded to show his assent as he watched the Hokage alight from his chair, bones cracking in protest. "Now then, Naruto-kun. It is time for lunch and I feel like having barbecue today. Would you care to join me?" "My treat," said the Hokage as he stretched his arms and legs in preparation for the short walk to the restaurant. "I need to find a successor soon. I am getting too old for the hat," mused Hiruzen silently. Naruto flashed a large number of his teeth to show his acceptance of the invite for the meal, and walked beside the Hokage, matching the old man's longer stride with quicker strides of his own. The walk to the restaurant was conducted in silence, both men taking in the sights of the empty ninja academy and monolithic Hokage monument. When Hiruzen and Naruto reached the restaurant, they were seated promptly in a corner of the restaurant, as per the Hokage's wishes, and left alone to decide what items they would like to order for the meal. Naruto recognized a lot of the words on the menu as they were all listed on the scroll that the Hokage had given him. Briefly, he wondered if all shinobi eat at this establishment. Surely the food was nutritious and beneficial towards their own training. Naruto glanced around the restaurant to spot any shinobi, but was only able to spot a large man and child from his position in the corner booth. With faint swirls seen on both men's cheeks, Naruto turned back to face the Hokage and asked Naruto if he was ready to order. Naruto replied, saying he would have the same thing as the old man. Moments later the waiter arrived, bowing respectfully to the Hokage and giving Naruto a short nod. "We will have 2 portions of the half and half platter, and 2 glasses of water," said Hiruzen in response to the unasked question. With a quick jot on the kitchen order token, the waiter retrieved the menus and returned into the kitchen, mentioning that the meals would arrive shortly. Naruto noticed that the large man and child he had spotted earlier were walking over to the booth that the Hokage and himself had occupied. "Ohayo, Hokage-sama." "Ohayo, Naruto-kun. How are you today?" Choza Akimichi asked the seated members of the booth. "Ohayo, Choza-san. I'm quite well." "Hello, Choji-kun. How are you?" replied the Hokage, startling the young boy that stood behind Choza. "The very well, Hokage-sama," Choji sputtered in response. It was unnerving to have the most powerful man in the village asking a boy with confidence issues a question in such a casual setting. "Ano, Choza-san. How do you know my name?" "I don't recall meeting you before," questioned Naruto. Naruto was rightfully wary of people who pretended to know him. It was a common trick used to lure him towards a group of people, usually a group that meant him harm. "You are right, Naruto-kun, we haven't been formally introduced. However, as a member of the Shinobi Council, I am privy to a lot of information, such as that prank you pulled on the coffee shop on the main street just over a month ago," Choza replied. The smirk on his face grew larger as Naruto looked about sheepishly. Hearing his father's statement, Choji shed all his previous shyness and exclaimed, "You are that Naruto?" pointing an accusatory finger at the boy in question. "But you are just my age, how did you pull off all those pranks?" "My father has told me quite a bit about you. You are quite brave, Naruto-san," Choji finished. Naruto's embarrassment grew further, indicated by the growing flush on his face. To further his embarrassment, the Hokage pitched in, adding, "Looks like you have an admirer of your work, Naruto-kun." At this, Choji's face flushed to match Naruto's, both boys thoroughly embarrassed, while the elders laughed at their expense. Choza spotted his takeaway order being prepared at the counter and decided to take his leave. "By your leave, Hokage-sama," said the clan head as he bowed in respect. The Hokage returned the bow before bidding his goodbye to the father and son duo. "By Naruto-san," said Choji, offering his hand to the startled Naruto. Naruto shook the proffered hand and nodded politely to the Akimichi clan head. "That boy is really strong," said Naruto as he turned away from the retreating forms of the Akimikis to face the Hokage. "When I shook his hand I could feel the strength of his grip easily." "How is he so strong? He can't be much older than I am," Naruto wondered loudly. The people of the Akimichi clan are known for their brute strength. "Naruto-kun, remember I told you that members of clans teach their children well in advance of joining the ninja academy. I wouldn't be surprised if Choza taught his son a few clan techniques or enhanced his strength through training," replied Hiruzen to Naruto's ponderings. "I know, Hokage-jiji, but it is one thing to hear it, and quite the other to see it. That is someone I will be classmates with, and he is already so strong," said Naruto, in awe of the effects of early guidance. "By the time we graduate I want to be as strong as him, Hokage-jiji." "That's quite the task you have set yourself, Naruto. Akimikis are generally the strongest people in all of Konoha and rank highly in strength across the entire elemental continent. You should train to enhance your best attribute, your speed. Having said that, it would be unwise not to have some semblance of balance between all your physical attributes," Hiruzen sagely replied to Naruto. At this point, the food had arrived and both men dug into their respective meals. I will need to train hard. I have much catching up to do, thought Naruto as he ate the rest of his meal in silencing, savoring the texture and taste of the meat and vegetables. As Hiruzen and Naruto walked back towards the Hokage Tower, a comfortable silence was held between the two men. Hiruzen was pleased to note the positive effect of the day's meeting with the Akimichi on Naruto. The boy had become much more determined since that chance meeting to improve, as was evidenced by the look in his eye, and this proved vital to instill self-belief at this early stage in his training. In addition, Choji might prove to become a friend to Naruto when in the academy, which would be invaluable in the near future to the boy's social development. This is where we part ways, Naruto-kun. Keep training hard and you will see the benefits of your results when you join the academy. If you ever have any doubts, feel free to drop by at my office, said the Hokage as they reached the path in the road where they would split ways. Reaching into his robes, Hiruzen pulled out a book and handed it over to Naruto. This is a remedial reading book. It is fairly simple to read and should help you significantly. Read this during your downtime. Naruto took the book from the Hokage's hand and said, "Thanks for the meal and the book, Hokage Gigi. I will train hard indeed." Naruto waved to the Hokage as he turned towards his apartment. After a short rest, he would begin his sword swinging. It was well past dusk by the time Naruto had finished his sword swinging exercises. Admittedly, the delay was brought about as his proposed short rest turned into a fairly lengthy nap. That was all the doing of the scrumptious barbecue. He had had his fill and his content stomach had managed to subdue his brain and decided that a nap was in order. After a refreshing shower, Naruto consumed the leftovers of his supper from the previous night, completed his nightly ritual and promptly fell asleep. Waking up quite late the following morning, Naruto was unhappy to find most of his torso in immense pain. Fortunately for him, there was no training scheduled for today. He would need to shop for groceries today, which meant he would need to go into the village center. As Naruto was making his way back from the grocer's, he spotted Choji and his father Choza come out of the hospital. Choji had already seen Naruto and had come jogging towards the boy. "Naruto-san, a few of us are planning to play ninja in the park nearby in a little while. Would you care to join us?" said Choji, excited at the prospect of making a new friend and adding to his tiny friend circle. Naruto was about to decline the offer on the account of having to store his groceries before they had been left out for too long when Choza beat him to the punch. "Naruto-kun, you can keep your groceries at our house while you play. We live right next to this park and it isn't an inconvenience at all," said the large man. Choza was well aware of his son's minute friend group and had recognized Choji's attempt to recruit more people into his circle. Besides, this would benefit both of them. "I can't imagine Naruto-kun has very many people his age he can call friends," Choza thought to himself. Delighted at the prospect of spending time with people his age, Naruto politely accepted the Akimiki's offer and followed them. Choji was ecstatic at this latest development, and rambled on about the different people he was likely to meet at the park. The park was situated roughly equidistant from the Nara, Akimichi and Yamanaka clan. Naruto had never been near the clan houses before, but he did know it involved large families living together, and so he expected a large house or a collection of houses. When Naruto arrived at the gates of the clan house, he was absolutely gobsmacked at the sheer size of the property. It was unlike anything he had seen before. "This is someone's house?" Naruto wondered. Choji turned around to see his new friend staring at the enormity of the complex, jaw halfway down to meeting the floor. "Naruto-san, is something wrong?" Choji asked. He was afraid that the boy would be intimidated by the size of the building. After their meeting the previous day, Choji had asked his father endless questions about Naruto, as he had never seen the boy at the park before. Choji had learnt that Naruto had lived alone in the outskirts of the village, closer to the village walls in the northeastern side of Konoha. "Nothing, Choji-san. It's huge," Naruto exclaimed. "You live in there? Your family must be huge," finished Naruto. Naruto quickly bit his tongue. He hadn't intended to make a comment about the size of the Akimikis, but even he realized that his comment could be construed that way. Fortunately, Choji did not see it that way. He was acutely aware that for someone who lived alone for a large part of his life, that the lifestyle of a member of a clan must be completely alien. "We have quite a few people in the complex, but if you want to see a truly massive clan complex, you should check out the Nara clan. Maybe we will meet Shikamaru at the park today. He is a Nara, you know." Naruto didn't. In fact, Naruto did not even know about the significance of hailing from the Nara clan, but realized that as a member of the clan house, he must belong to a huge family as well. After storing his groceries in the Akimichi household, Naruto followed Choji to the park, Choza following the two boys closely behind. Choji and Naruto asked each other many questions. Unfortunately for Choji, Naruto was unable to answer a lot of the questions he had for him, or was unwilling to answer a few. Nonetheless, Choji was not put off by Naruto's evasiveness, and was happy to count Naruto as a friend. As they reached the park, Choji dragged a slightly startled Naruto towards the group of children that were just beginning to decide on the groups for the game. Choji introduced Naruto to the other 4 people that were present at the park: Shikamaru Nara, Ino Yamanaka, Kiba Inuzuka and Sakura Haruno. After the introductions were made, the group split up into 2 teams, and upon Ino's insistence, a second-generation Inoshikacho was formed, leaving Naruto, Kiba and Sakura to form the second team. The objective of the game was to sneak up on a member of the opposing team and tag them on their backs or tag them anywhere on their body with one of the 3 cardboard shuriken that Ino and Sakura had prepared for each of them. As the children began to separate into their teams, the members of the original Inoshikacho group had gathered around a tree that offered them a large amount of shade. They always watched their respective children play from this spot, as it was far enough that they were not considered intrusive but close enough to intercept any trouble. Their children were all heirs to their respective clans, and they were all acutely aware of the debacle that was the botched kidnapping of the Hinata Hyuga. As they watched the new addition to their children's group being introduced, Inochi Yamanaka raised a solitary eyebrow as he identified the boy. As he turned to Choza, he asked, "Isn't that?" "Yes, Naruto Uzumaki," finished Choza. "You don't mean," Inochi began again, only to be cut off for a second time. "Correct. His one and only son," finished Choza. "And is that?" Inochi continued, determined to finish a sentence in this conversation for once. "A bright orange jumpsuit. Saw him wearing it the other day as well. I have absolutely no idea where he got it. Should be banned for being an eyesore. Thing practically reflects the sunlight back into your eyes," finished Choza, beaming smile on his face as he knew what would follow shortly. "God damn it, Choza. You always do this." Inochi hated when Choza would finish his sentences. Every so often, the large man would indulge in this pastime to annoy the mind-walker in their group. Such was the intimate nature of the relationship between the 3 men that they were perfectly aware of the other's thoughts. This was the primary reason of the success of the famed trio. Shikaka Nara laughed boisterously at this interaction. He absolutely loved it, as he knew the mind reader was furious at having his own mind read. However, Shikaka knew this was no technique, just plain good old intuition. Should be interesting to see his prankster abilities in motion, finished the Nara clan head. His 2 friends merely nodded and watched as the 2 teams split off, proud to see the second generation of Inoshikacho in action. Naruto and his team, who Kiba had determined should be called Team Kiba, split away from the Inoshikacho group into their designated space in the park and began the count till 100, at which point the game would commence. As Sakura finished the count, she and Kiba split ways and began searching for their opponents. This confused Naruto, as he was under the impression that they were a team, and thus should be acting like one. Since this was his first time playing the game, Naruto decided he would hide in the shadows and try to determine if there were any effective strategies that could be employed to help him win this game. As Naruto slunk around in the shadows in one of the many trees in the wooded part of the park, he heard Sakura's indignant cry. She had been tagged, and if the obnoxiously shrill victory shout that had shortly pursued was any indication, he guessed that Ino had been the one to tag her out. 2 versus 3 now, thought Naruto. Naruto quickly had to correct himself as Kiba took advantage of Ino's lapse in concentration during her victory dance and tagged her with a precisely thrown shuriken to the girl's side. Ino was delirious that Kiba had tagged her during her gloating session. "That's not fair. I wasn't ready yet," said Ino, turning to her teammates in search of support. When she received nothing but looks of pity, she huffed and sat down next to Sakura, verbosely cursing the Inuzuka boy for his treachery with all the gusto and malice a 9-year-old girl could muster. Kiba had managed to disappear back into the wooded part of the park as the remnants of the Inoshikacho group redoubled their efforts to find their elusive opponents. Naruto spotted Kiba from his hiding place, and quickly came up with a plan. He would bait Choji into giving chase and lead the larger boy towards Kiba's hiding place, from where Kiba could easily tag him, as Choji's attention would be on Naruto. Naruto zipped past Choji as he goaded him to give chase. Choji was startled by the initial burst of pace but was determined to give chase. Naruto had separated Choji far away from Shikamaru that Choji was unable to heed his teammates' warning to give up the chase. Kiba was able to almost immediately latch onto his teammates' plan and decided to hide himself better so that he did not sabotage the plan. As soon as Naruto passed Kiba's hiding place, he slowed down fractionally to allow the Akimichi to catch up. Seeing the distance between himself and his target get smaller, Choji was filled with focus and his determination led to tunnel vision. All Choji could see was the back of Naruto getting larger and larger as he closed the distance between them. Choji had reduced the gap to a mere 2 seconds when he suddenly felt a palm on his back. Slowing his run, he turned to see Kiba standing at the very same spot. He felt the contact with a cocky grin on his face. "Got you," said Kiba, chopping his arm in the air to make a motion of a sword chopping through a body to indicate his victory over Choji. "Nice one, Naruto-kun. Now let's get Shikamaru and win this thing," finished the boy as he made his way towards the still dazed Akimichi and began plotting Shikamaru's eventual loss. After having made their plan, Naruto and Kiba split off and began to search for Shikamaru. Shikamaru was acutely aware of the ploy to trap his friend as soon as he saw Naruto lead Choji away from him and towards the part of the park that was more densely packed with trees than the others. The watchful eyes of the fathers in attendance had spotted Naruto's plan as soon as Kiba had. "Impressive," said Shikaku. Naruto had planned it to perfection, from startling the Akimichi boy into giving chase to the slowing down towards the end to allow the boy to catch up and lose focus of his surroundings. "I know I should be rooting for my boy, but Naruto-kun pulled of a great team move for a team that showed no indication of wanting to work together," said Choza. I do believe this is Naruto-kun's first time playing with the kids, but he was able to come up with an effective plan that played to Kiba's strength, his speed. Inochi finished the analysis. Well, if they are going to work together as a team, let's see how they are going to outsmart Mr. Smartypants out there, said Choza, anticipating the final showdown. Naruto's introduction to this group certainly made things more interesting. Usually, sessions of ninja just involved Kiba bulldozing through the opposition with speed. I am interested too, but Kiba should be smart enough to realize that Shikamaru won't fall for the same plan, said Shikaku. He was mightily proud of his son who showed significant intellect even at such a young age. Naruto circled around the wooded area so as to allow himself to come out and attack Shikamaru from as close to his blind spot as possible. Shikamaru had wisely chosen to keep the open part of the park to his back and focus his energies on locating his opponents, who were surely hiding in the wooded region. Deciding that he was sufficiently close to his target, Naruto sprinted out of his hiding place as quickly and quietly as possible in an effort to tag Shikamaru. With seconds to spare, Shikamaru spotted a blur of orange appear in his peripheral vision and turned to face his opponent. Shikamaru was quite surprised to see the pace exhibited by the boy. Shikamaru had met almost all of the children his age that hailed from ninja backgrounds and had gauged some aspect of their skill whilst playing with them. Shikamaru had never seen Naruto before but was sure he was almost as fast as Kiba, the fastest member of their group, closely followed by the reclusive Sasuke Uchiha. However, if Shikamaru was surprised by Naruto's pace, he was absolutely caught off guard by his shuriken throwing skills. Naruto had all three of his cardboard shuriken to spare and launched them with all his might towards the Naruto boy. By the time Shikamaru had turned to face his blonde opponent, Naruto had already thrown his shuriken. To his abject horror and Shikamaru's complete surprise, not a single one of the thrown projectiles landed within a 5-foot radius of the intended target. Shikamaru quickly gathered his wits along with his own set of shuriken and launched them at the yellow-haired boy. Naruto was able to dodge the first shuriken that was thrown at him, but the remaining 2 shuriken struck the boy. Naruto had been tagged and was out of the game, but Shikamaru quickly followed. As soon as Shikamaru had thrown his own set of shuriken, Kiba had launched his remaining 2 towards the Naruto boy, who created a new blind spot that conveniently suited the Inuzuka. One of the shuriken struck Shikamaru on his back and the other grazed his right leg. Kiba, the sole survivor of the winning team, burst into victorious yelps as he ran towards Naruto to celebrate. Sakura quickly joined the impromptu celebrations, and soon the 6 children huddled together near a tree close to the swing set to talk about their respective days. Playing the bait twice in 2 big plays. That Naruto sure is selfless. I wonder if Kiba realizes this, said Inochi. Naruto was able to eliminate the advantage of teamwork by removing Choji from the equation and then set up Shikamaru's loss. Not bad. I just hope he comes up with better tactics when it's time to be using actual shuriken. His kamikaze tactics might get him into a lot of trouble later on, like when it's time to use real shuriken and not ones made out of cardboard, added Shikaku. For now, it's just good to know he will have a few good friends, finished Choza. The 2 other men nodded their heads in agreement as they watched Kiba reenact the culmination of their recently finished game with some added theatrics. As Kiba sat down after his reenactment, Shikamaru spoke up. Naruto-san, how come I have never seen you at the park before? Most of the kids our age are usually here all the time. You see, I live very far from here and barely venture into this side of the village. To be honest, I didn't even know about this park. Rather, I did not know that this is where you guys come to play. In fact, if not for Choji-san here, I wouldn't have even been here, replied Naruto. Naruto-san, please call me Choji. The polite honorific sounds weird. No one in this group uses them, said Choji. Naruto nodded and said, as long as you drop the honorific as well. You know, Naruto, if you were able to throw those shuriken at me correctly, you would have gotten me tagged for sure. Quite frankly though, your throwing action made it seem like you've never thrown a cardboard or practiced shuriken before. Do you not play with the other kids or your parents? Analyzed Shikamaru. As the other 4 kids turned to Naruto for an answer, they were met with silence. Naruto looked around the faces of the children in the group, and it was only when he reached Choji's face that he realized none of them knew of his situation. Choji had guessed from the information that he got from his father that Naruto was probably an orphan of civilian parents who were caught in the destruction wrought upon Konoha, all those years ago during the Kyuubi attack. It made sense to Choji as the timeline seemed to fit, as well as the lack of adoption from any of the shinobi families that might have been close to Naruto's parents had they been ninja themselves. Naruto turned his head downwards in sadness but decided to share his situation with these people. With any luck, these people would become friends of his. He had already considered the friendly Choji as a friend. I live alone. I never knew my parents, Naruto said in a small voice. Despite the whisper with which Naruto had conveyed the news, the stillness in the air ensured that all the children had heard him. They couldn't begin to comprehend the life that the blonde-haired boy had had to live. Being alone from such a young age was an alien concept to them, as 4 out of the 5 of them lived in huge clan houses surrounded by people and Sakura lived with her parents. Shikamaru had always described Ino as a troublesome girl, but he was well aware that she was a very astute and kind person, even more so than his chubby friend when the situation demanded it. Naruto-kun, Shikamaru is right, you know. You are quite terrible at throwing shuriken, said Ino in an attempt to change the subject. I'll tell you what, Why don't you come over to my place tomorrow sometime after lunch and I'll have made a full set of cardboard shuriken for you to practice with. That way, next time we play, you can get some people tagged out by yourself and Kiba can stop pretending he could have won today without his devious tactics and your help. Ino finished throwing a light elbow into the Inuzuka's gut for emphasis. Hey! That was low! Shouted Kiba, earning a chuckle from the collective as a small smile graced Naruto's countenance once again. Alright kids? It's time to head home, shouted Choza from where he stood with his former teammates. The 6 children stood up, dusted themselves off and started walking towards the adults. Ino-chan. Shika. We are having dinner with the Akimikis today. Sakura-chan, Kiba-kun and Naruto-kun, would you like to join us? Shikaku announced to the group. Naruto-kun, you have to come pick up your groceries anyway. I insist you stay for dinner. No one leaves the Akimichi gates twice without being fed even once, Choza said to Naruto. Yes. Naruto, you have to come. My mother got out of the hospital last evening and said we haven't been taking care of ourselves and so she is cooking a huge meal today. You simply must come for dinner tonight. I won't be taking no for an answer, the younger Akimichi picked up from where his father left. Naruto knew he had no say in the matter and decided to follow the group towards the Akimichi household. Naruto and Kiba walked side by side towards the Akimichi clan house. Kiba was quite intrigued by the newcomer to their group. He was quite an enigma in his own ways. Kiba was considered fast by his group of friends, and even the members of his clan for his age. However, he felt that Naruto had the potential to be even faster than him, if he was able to streamline his running action. Naruto, you know you are pretty fast, right? When I saw you whoosh past the tree I was hiding when we baited Choji, you looked like an orange blur to me. Maybe we can have a race one day to see who is the fastest, said Kiba. I'd like that, Kiba. How about the next time we meet at the park? Naruto told the feral-looking boy. You're on, Naruto. I'm not going to go easy on you though. Maybe Sasuke can join us too. That way we can determine who is the fastest in our age, finished Kiba as they entered the Akimichi clan compound. Sasuke? Naruto asked. Sasuke Uchiha? He is a good guy but over the last year he hasn't been coming to play a lot. In fact, I can't even remember the last time he came. He is almost as fast as I am but he can throw the shuriken way better. Shikamaru thinks he is the best all-rounder in our group. Obviously, Shikamaru is wrong. That honor belongs to me, replied Kiba, jerking a thumb towards his puffed-out chest to emphasize the last point of his reply. Entering the expansive Akimichi house, Naruto was shocked to see the flurry of activity in the kitchen that he could spot through the open door. Dinner was a quiet affair for Naruto barring the few times he dined at Ramen Ichiraku for the late meal. Today, however, Naruto was to be treated to a meal and company like nothing he had experienced in his short 9 years. Deciding the least he could do was offer some help, Naruto entered the kitchen and walked up to the 3 ladies who were in charge of feeding today's gathering. Ohio, Akichimi-san, Yamanaka-san and Nara-san. Would you like some help in the kitchen? Or I could help set up the table if you would like, offered Naruto, while bowing to each of the mentioned women in turn. Naruto had accurately guessed that the large woman was most likely Choji's mother due to certain similarities in their features, and the dark-haired woman was more likely to be Shikamaru's mother, leaving, by the method of elimination, the regal-looking lady with brown hair to be Ino's mother, though he did expect her to have blonde hair like her daughter and husband as well. Ohio, Naruto-kun. You're so sweet for offering. We don't need help right now but we'll call all the kids in when it's time to set up the table. Why don't you join the kids until then? Replied Yahi Akimichi in response to Naruto's offer. Alright then. Thanks for the invite, Akimichi-san, said Naruto as he left the kitchen to join his newly found friends in the central garden of the house. Oh my, if you remove the whiskers he is a splitting image of the yondaime, don't you think? Asked Miwa Nara. I wonder if he will grow up to be as handsome as his father, Suzuki Yamanaka said wistfully. The 3 women looked at each and burst out into a fit of giggles as they returned to their cooking. Several moments later, the bellowing voice of Choza called for the children to come in and help set up the table. Within minutes the 6 adults and 6 children were seated at the large table, various discussions breaking about through the dinner party. Naruto could honestly say that today was the best day of his life. He had made friends, who weren't prejudiced against him for an unknown reason and met adults who seemed to genuinely care for him. As a bonus, the food they had was absolutely delicious. As dinner was finished, the men offered up to clean the table, and so the children headed back to their spot in the garden to talk again. Oh man, I can't wait to start at the academy next year and finally start learning some awesome new jutsu. Right now, my mom refuses to teach Akamaru and me any new jutsu until we train in the basics with more discipline, said Kiba, adopting the tone of his mother for the last bit of his comment. Once again, Naruto felt like he was missing some vital information and asked Kiba who Akamaru is. Akamaru is my companion. When you are part of the Inuzuka clan, each of us gets a companion dog with which we train and fight. He isn't with me today, as he has to train with the older dogs in the clan. Hopefully, you can see him next time we meet up, replied Kiba. AKA-chan is just the cutest, Naruto-kun, squealed Sakura. Nothing like his master, added Sakura to tease the Inuzuka in their group. Realization struck Naruto just a short while later. Kiba was joining the academy next year, the same year that Naruto would be joining. Kiba, you are going to be starting at the academy in January too? Asked Naruto. We all are starting next year. You said too, does that mean you will be part of our year at the academy as well, Naruto? Shikamaru asked Naruto. Whoa! All of you will be joining? That's great. I am going to be part of the same year as you guys. Yada! Naruto exclaimed. He was ecstatic at the realization that not only would he be able to join the Ninja Academy in a few short weeks, but he would also be joining with the few friends he had made. This was shaping up to be the greatest day ever. As everyone realized they would have a new future classmate in Naruto, they bombarded him with a myriad of questions as they spent the rest of their time at the Akimichi house learning more about the boy who in turn learned much about his 5 friends. As the time to leave approached, Naruto had run into the Akimichi household as everyone exchanged goodbyes to grab his groceries before he departed with the Yamanakas. Kiba, Sakura and the Naros headed towards their respective houses while the Yamanakas and Naruto walked together until the Yamanaka clan estate, cutting through the park they had played in earlier in the day to save time. As Naruto bid farewell to the elder Yamanakas, Ino shouted out to Naruto reminding him to come over to the flower shop near the clan house to pick up the practice shuriken. Smiling politely and nodding his assent, Naruto waved a final goodbye to the exuberant Ino as he headed towards his apartment. Naruto walked down the main streets in high spirits. Today had been fantastic and he owed it all to the kind-hearted Choji. Choji's invitation to the game of ninja at the park had led to his meeting with his future classmates and friends. He would try to return the favor somehow. He owed the boy that much. Naruto reached his apartment without incident and put his groceries away. After finishing his exercises and stretches, he climbed into bed. Naruto pulled out the remedial reading book that the Hokage had provided him and began reading. The words on the book illuminated by the moonlight that streaked through the window above his bed. Eyelids growing heavy from the exhaustive day and the light reading, fell into a peaceful doze. Chapter 4, Naruto Uzumaki, Ninja Candidate. With the new set of cardboard shuriken he had received from Ino, Naruto was able to supplement his training program further. However, it seemed that regardless of his best efforts, his aim with the shuriken could simply not improve. Practicing out in the training field, Naruto quickly realized that for an amateur like him, shuriken practice with fragile and lightweight cardboard shuriken was not meant for the outdoors, and so he set up several targets in various parts of his house. Every time Naruto would enter a different room in his house, he would pick up a shuriken and attack one of the targets. Naruto was never once able to hit a target from a distance of 5 feet or more. The new year rolled in alongside a chilly breeze from the northwest, and Naruto had met his 5 friends regularly since his fateful meeting with them in the park all those days ago. As promised, Naruto had had his race with Kiba. However, he had yet to be introduced to the elusive Sasuke, and so the race was just between the two boys. Kiba had won the race by a significant margin, despite the fact that it could potentially hurt his position as the fastest in the group. Kiba promised Naruto that he would train the orange-clad boy in a running style to make his own more efficient. This meant Naruto now had 2 training sessions in speed, one with Kiba out in the park, and one in secret in the training ground on the occasions that it was unoccupied. A week before the academy was scheduled to restart for the new academic year, Naruto was summoned to meet the Hokage. After being announced by the receptionist, Mikoto-sen, Naruto walked in to meet the aging Hokage. Ohio Naruto. Come on in. I have something important to tell you, Hiruzen greeted the young boy. Naruto waved back in greeting, and he plopped himself down into one of the chairs in front of the Hokage's desk. Elbows resting on his thighs and head supported in his palms, Naruto leaned forward in his chair to listen to what the old man had to say. What I have to say today might be hard for you to digest, but know that I only have your best interest at heart. I know it's a belief you have held favorably for a long amount of time, however, you have been thoroughly misled on the matter. To be honest, I take quite the amount of blame concerning this upon myself. I should have told you earlier. I should have had faith in you, faith that you are mature enough to handle the truth without going off the rails. Hiruzen told the boy with a poker face so good that Naruto did not have a single idea what was going on. Curious about what the Hokage was about to divulge, Naruto leaned forward. This was important news and he did not want to miss a word of it. Naruto, continued the Hokage, orange just isn't your color. Naruto almost fell off his chair only to catch himself before he managed to embarrass himself. What? Are you kidding me, old man? I thought this was something important. Hokage Gigi, you got me so curious, and for what? For wearing orange? Shouted Naruto pointing an accusatory finger at the Hokage. The Hokage laughed boisterously and eventually calmed down, wheezing to a stop. It's about time I got one on you. With all your damn pranks, I sure as hell can afford myself this luxury. Naruto had nothing to say in response as the Hokage had made a good point. Deciding it was time to change the subject, Naruto sputtered a response. I am sure you didn't call me in just to make fun of my fashion sense, Hokage Gigi. Well, I called you in to discuss something that is quite pertinent to your choice of attire. As Konoha has quite a few shinobi of its own, I am sure you have seen at least a few of them, Hiruzen told the boy with a serious expression on his face. Hiruzen continued with his point after seeing Naruto nod in confirmation. Have you ever seen a shinobi in such a bright color before? I once know. No, I haven't, replied Naruto, understanding the true reason the Hokage had summoned him this morning. My ninja are required to go on several dangerous missions. While I cannot explicitly tell them what to wear, I would rest easy when I know that they are taking every precaution to finish the mission as safely as possible. Some missions require shinobi to sneak into foreign countries. Can you imagine how long a bright orange-clad ninja would last on the barren terrain of IWA? Hiruzen finished, letting his point sink in. While you won't be going on any missions until after you graduate, and are unlikely to leave the country for months even after that, I strongly believe you should consider this an aspect of your new shinobi life. I see your point. I do. The problem is, well, I can't quite afford anything else. Even if it's just Ninja Academy and I won't be doing anything scary. I would like to dress like a ninja, but I can only change my wardrobe when I pick up some ninja missions and get paid for them, said Naruto, acutely aware that in his current state of dress, he would not make it very far in IWA at all. Well, that's because you haven't factored in a couple of things. Since you are going to be a student at the Ninja Academy, you will need quite a few supplies on a more regular basis, and so I plan to increase your monthly allowance until the time you graduate from the academy. Also, I have been slightly late to give you this, but I do believe I owe you a New Year's gift, Hiruzen told the boy with a sparkle in his eye. The amount he had decided to give Naruto should cover all his basic requirements, and then some. As Hiruzen pushed out a red envelope towards him, Naruto could only look down at the floor, trying his hardest not to let the tears fall. The old man had been the nicest person to him, and he was now going out of his way to help him further. Determined not to let the tears that threat to fall be seen, Naruto took the envelope from the Hokage, bowed low and yelled in proclamation, "I am going to be your best ninja, Hokage-sama." Turning around without notice, Naruto ran out of the office and into his apartment without pause. A week later, Naruto headed out to begin his life as a student at the Ninja Academy. Naruto had decided to outfit himself in a deep red t-shirt and a pair of black shorts. Naruto had decided not to spend all the money he received at once, saving some of the money for a rainy day. He would need to replace the clothing as he grew. In addition, Naruto had purchased a pair of black ninja sandals that were recommended to him by one of the clerks at the store, as the footwear that was previously on his feet looked worn down past the soles. Excited at the prospect of officially starting on his path towards being a ninja, Naruto reached the academy well in advance of the opening hour. He spotted only one other person on the academy grounds, a boy with black hair and equally dark eyes with a blue t-shirt and a pair of white shorts. Naruto had never seen the boy before, and considering his age, Naruto found it peculiar, as he had met and seen a lot of people since he joined his friends at the park regularly. As the minutes passed by, Naruto noticed that the slow trickle of people who had come into the academy grounds had accumulated to form a throng of people that started at the gates and continued into the training field situated behind a few of the buildings. From within this group, Ino and her parents had spotted Naruto in his lonesome and decided to keep him company until it was time to start classes. "Ohio Naruto-kun," Ino called out as she darted towards the blonde boy. Taking an appraising step back after hugging the boy, she said, "I honestly cannot complain about the lack of light reflecting from your body. You look much better in this." By this time, Inochi and Suzuki had joined the children, and the four of them made polite small talk to pass the time. Soon, Kiba and Akamaru, Sakura and her mother, Choji and his parents, and Shikamaru and his mother had joined in the group. As the nerves abated, conversation quickly picked up an excited tone about the immediate future of the children in the group, with the two clan heads contributing stories from their own days at the academy. As the bell rang signifying it was time for the children to enter their classrooms, the children split from the adults after their respective goodbyes and headed for the large building that housed their classrooms. As Naruto and his friends seated himself amongst the numerous other students in his class, he realized that the raven-haired boy he had spotted earlier was a member of their class as well. Naruto lazily let his eyes roam across the classroom, and he soon spotted Ino and Sakura sitting by each other a row ahead on the other side of the classroom. As he did not recognize anyone else from his seat, as he was sitting with Kiba, Shikamaru and Choji in the row of benches furthest from the writing board, he quickly followed Shikamaru's lead and rested his head on the table. Choji, he noticed, was trying to make conversation with the black-haired boy from before, while Kiba was talking to a spiky-haired boy who wore dark glasses. Soon, a young man with a scar across his nose and a Konoha Hitate walked in and announced himself to the class. "My name is Irika Yumino, and you can call me Irika-sensei. I will be your teacher for the next 3 years. Chapter 5, Safety from the Numbers. The first 2.5 years of academy flew past for the now 11-year-old Naruto and his friends, which now broadened to include the weirdly shy Hinata Hyuga, the puzzling Shino Aburame, and the perennially sulking Sasuke Uchiha. Naruto was able to keep pace with Kiba easily and on occasion beat him in a foot race, but on the few occasions he ran against Sasuke he was never once able to beat the raven-haired boy. Naruto still continued his training in secret but joined his friends in the park as often as he could. However, with his friends being whisked away by their parents for private training of their own and Naruto's first steps into learning kenjutsu forms, the amount of time he spent with them had drastically reduced. It had been a while since everyone had been able to meet together, and Choji and Ino had managed to convince the entire group that they should all meet up to celebrate the large boy's birthday at the barbecue restaurant. Naruto was to pick up Ino after her shift at the flower shop and then head over to the restaurant together. As he left his room, he spied the Bakken lying by his door, which triggered a memory of his first encounter with his Kenjutsu master. The academic year was split midway to allow the students to recuperate a little, recharge their batteries so to speak. The teachers, however, planned the break, as it was close to impossible to maintain the focus of a bunch of restless preteens during the very warm summer months. During the break of his second year at the academy, Naruto was able to spend more time training than he was during the academic year. It was during one of his strength training sessions that he had first met her. She had merely introduced her as Kat, a codename that fit well with the designs on her mask. Naruto knew almost instantaneously that he was in the presence of the person that formulated his training regimen with the approval of the Hokage. She was soft-spoken and introduced herself as the person who would instruct Naruto in the art of swordsmanship, if he chose to accept her tutelage. Naruto was ecstatic, but as it was late at night, he decided to curb his enthusiasm and reply with a simple hi. Naruto-kun, as of now, I am unable to reveal my identity to you, but know that I care for your safety. I have been watching your progress in your training and have been most impressed. Maybe one day, we can also discuss some of the material you have covered in the books I prescribed for you, Kat told Naruto, turning off her voice-modifying switch in her mask, lest she intimidate the boy unnecessarily. Konoha doesn't have very many sword users. The flash and appeal of ninjutsu sway a lot of young ninja away from the way of the sword. I would like to mold you into a fine shinobi whose skill with the sword is unparalleled in this nation. What do you have to say, Naruto? Naruto was well aware that his instructor-to-be was a member of the elite ANBU division of Konoha's shinobi, evidenced by the choice of armor and mask. Assuming she would prefer a more serious approach to the matter, he replied as professionally as an out-of-breath 12-year-old boy covered in sweat and grime could. It would be my honor, Kat-senpai. Kat laughed at the young boy's antics. She had watched Naruto interact with the Hokage and those of his age, and she was acutely aware that this was uncharacteristic behavior for the boy. You don't need to be so formal with me, Naruto. But know that I am quite a strict taskmaster. Smiling at having established an easy relationship with his masked instructor, Naruto fell back into a relaxed stance. He wasn't sure about how well he would be with the sword, but he was extremely comfortable with his Bakken and was eager to learn more about using swords. Unfortunately, my duty to the Hokage and the village comes first, and I will often be on missions. When I have the time, I shall send you a message and we shall meet at a suitable training ground. As you can imagine, we can only train at night to ensure my involvement in your development is unnoticed. Wait for my next message, and until then keep training your body and mind, Yugao explained to the boy as she disappeared in a leaf shunshin. Naruto's covert training sessions with Kat always left him exhausted. He would find little notes slid under his doorway after he returned from classes at the academy instructing him of the when and the where of his clandestine meetings. It had been just under a year since Naruto was introduced to the various forms and stances of Kenjutsu. The rigid rules of Kenjutsu made it counterintuitive and difficult for Naruto to adopt, but he managed to make steady progress. In the few friendlies that took place between master and student, Naruto had never been able to land a blow on any part of Kat. However, that was to be expected. She was ANBU and he was still in the academy. Whilst reminiscing about the past on the way to pick up Ino, Naruto bumped into a large, burly man who had just stepped out of one of the taverns. "Watch it, punk," said the man, the stench of alcohol reaching Naruto and making him crinkle his nose in reaction. "Oh, I am sorry. I wasn't paying attention," Naruto replied with a bow. Recognizing the mop of spiky blonde hair, the man took a large swing at the lowered head and clobbered the boy, sending him face first to meet the paved street. Naruto clutched his head in defense but left his side open to attack, and the man took full advantage and proceeded to kick the boy to his heart's content. The relentless attack finally culminated when an off-duty ninja spotted the attack as he turned into the street that would lead him to the same tavern as the one from which Naruto's attacker had previously exited. The ninja attacked the large man and warned him to leave immediately under threat of action. As Naruto sat up on the floor to face his savior, the ninja told the boy to wait outside the bar for a minute. Feeling no malice from his protector, Naruto complied, and a minute later, the ninja returned with a glass of water in his hand. "Are you alright?" asked the ninja to the still-seated boy. "Oh. Stupid question. Do you think you have any broken bones?" As Naruto got off the street to stand up, a sharp wave of pain emanated from his right side, suggesting that the man had kicked him hard enough to break a rib or two. "I'll be fine soon enough," said Naruto to the yet-to-be-identified ninja. It was true, Naruto healed from a myriad of injuries during his short life with a miraculous rate of recovery. Consuming the proffered water, Naruto returned the glass to the ninja. "Thank you, ninja-san. I must be on my way. I have to meet some friends." Naruto walked away from the tavern and proceeded towards the Yamanaka flower shop, favoring his right side even as he felt the pain reduce with each passing step. "A glass of water is the least I could do for you, Naruto-kun," thought the masked ninja with his hitate covering his left eye. Mood fouled, he forewent his tavern visit and decided to call it an early night. Naruto reached the flower shop just as Ino finished preparing the last bouquet for a familiar-looking couple. As Naruto entered the shop, the ringing of the bell attracted the attention of the Ino towards the ragged-looking blonde. "Naruto, I am just finishing up here." "What happened?" "You are covered in dust." "Well, just clear up your face at the basin in the corner." Just give me a bit to change out of these clothes and I will be right with you, Ino said without pause, hurrying towards her house, missing her friend's true state of affairs in her haste to prepare for the party. As Naruto washed his face and returned to the counter, he noticed that the couple from earlier were Shikamaru's parents, and that they were still at the shop. Hello Nara-san, said Naruto meekly, turning his face away when he noticed the questioning glance that was thrown his way courtesy of both parents. Unable to bear the scrutiny anymore, Naruto came up with a weak lie. You see, I was on my way here, and I was daydreaming and walked into a lamppost. Haha, clumsy me. Shikaka was displeased and replied in kind. Naruto, I am a ninja and my whole career is based on deception. Please don't insult my intelligence. If you ran into a post, why are you favoring your right side? No one walks into a post sideways. Hearing Ino shout out a goodbye to her mother and the concern in Miwa's eyes, Naruto decided to tell the Naras the truth. Alright, I was on my way here and I wasn't paying attention and ran into a drunk. He punched and kicked me. Please don't tell anyone this, especially Ino. She always fusses over everyone. If she finds out, the whole mood of the party will turn sour, and we haven't met in so long and I don't want to be the reason this party doesn't go well. Please, Naruto replied so quickly that the Naras had a difficult time catching all the words he said. The Naras were dumbfounded and had nothing to say, but their expressive eyes told Naruto that their concern was legitimate. At that very moment, Ino ran past the Naras, pulled on Naruto's arm and dragged him along with her. Come on Naruto, it's time to go. We are late already. Miwa turned to Shikaka and said, Honey, we have to do something for him. What happened to him shouldn't be happening to anyone, especially someone of his age. What if it was Shika-kun? I know what we need to do, but first we need to talk to Shika about it too. This will change his life as well. I am sure he won't have problem and then I will petition the council after I consult with the Hokage, Shikaka told his wife, eliciting a small smile from her. It was all her could do for her for now. The party was a roaring success with Sasuke, Shino and Hinata all coming over to the restaurant to celebrate Choji's birthday. As the group broke up eventually and everyone headed their separate ways, Shikamaru was the only person who noticed that Naruto was far more subdued today than he would have been normally. Initially, Shikamaru chalked it down to a matter of fatigue as a result of Naruto's own training. Naruto's rate of improvement was quite sensational, and he knew that the extra speed and lithe physique did not come from just training sessions with Kiba. It was only when Naruto left the room to head to the restroom that Shikamaru realized that his mannerisms was a consequence of an injury, and not fatigue. Still, he could have picked up the injury while training. If he is training without supervision, it is quite likely to happen after all, Shikamaru thought to himself. When Shikamaru returned home late that night, he was surprised to see his parents not only awake but waiting for him. Surely I couldn't be in trouble. Curious, Shikamaru sat down on one of the empty couches and let his parents take the lead in their own time. Ohio, Shika-kun. How was the birthday celebration? Miwa asked her son. It was all right. Mom, Dad, I know this isn't why you are still up. Is everything all right? Shikamaru asked his parents. Shikaka smiled a melancholic smile. His son was sharp as ever. He would be a great ninja and a valuable asset to Konoha in the future. Fair enough. It's too late in the night to be beating around the bush. Son, we are concerned about Naruto-kun's safety and well-being and as such wish to adopt him into the family to protect him better, Shikaka told his son. To his credit, Shikamaru didn't fall off his seat. For that matter, he barely showed any change in expression. Well, if he is too lazy to become a good ninja, at the very least he can become a great poker player, Shikaka thought to himself, momentarily distracting himself from the serious situation at hand. You want to know if I would be comfortable with having an adopted brother? Shikamaru asked his parents rhetorically. I can see why you are concerned for his safety. I saw him nursing quite an injury just today. I take it you know more about it than I do? Questioned the Nara heir. The silence in the air and the concerned look in his mother's eyes provided an answer in and of itself. I like him. He is a good kid and quite clever in his own ways. Besides, no one our age should be living alone. I'm proud of you guys for taking the initiative, Shikamaru finished. The elation from his parents was more than worth the oncoming hassles of sharing a house with the loud blonde. Well, there is a lot of red tape and loopholes to jump through to successfully adopt him. Even if he doesn't know it yet, Naruto is quite special, but we aren't going to give up without one hell of a fight, Shikaka told his son as his wife went to embrace him. Well, if all goes well, the Nara compound is going to get a lot noisier. There goes the neighborhood, Shikamaru said with a sarcastic roll of his eyes. The light laughter that ensued lifted the spirits and the mood of the Naras, and they headed towards their respective bedrooms. As Shikamaru reached the stairs, he turned around and asked, Naruto didn't mention anything today. I take it you haven't told him yet? No, not yet. We can tell him tomorrow. After all, he might not even want to be adopted after living alone for so long, Shikaka replied to his son's question. Stuffing his hands into his pockets, Shikamaru climbed the stairs towards his bedroom, merely nodding once to acknowledge that he had heard his father's response. The following day, Shikaka and Miwa approached the Hokage with their plan to adopt Naruto into their family. Miwa-chan, I appreciate your concern, but the council will never let the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi be adopted into any clan of Konoha. It would upset the balance of power between the existing clans. You would never get a majority ruling in your favor even with the backing of the Akimichi and Yamanaka clans. Hiruzen did not want to crush the possibility of offering Naruto a stable life, but as Hokage he had to appear just and fair. What if we offer him a place to stay? Shikaku said, confusing the Hokage about what he meant. I mean to say, what if we adopt Naruto into the family but not into the clan? He would remain in Uzumaki but he would live with us. That might work. We could use the argument of mental stability and loyalty to convince that scheming war hawk that if and when Naruto would learn of the Kyuubi, it would be favorable for us to have him in a stable environment. I don't like it though. I feel like I am lying to myself, Hiruzen thought out loudly. Very well, let us see what Naruto thinks of the idea, and if he is open to the adoption, then we can go ahead, Hiruzen finished, letting out a loud sigh to emphasize his uneasiness with the political maneuvering that would follow in the weeks, if not months, to come considering Naruto's status as a Jinchuriki. The only other time adoption for Naruto had come into question was in the immediate aftermath of his birth, and Hiruzen had denied permission as he was skeptical of the motives of the Uchiha clan, the ones that offered to take Naruto in. A few days later, Naruto was summoned to the Hokage's office, and for the first time in his summons, a time was specified. Naruto thought it strange but made sure to plan his training so that he would be free when requested. When Naruto arrived at the specified time, he was pleasantly surprised to find Shikamaru there as well. He had not met his friend since Choji's birthday party and was about to talk to him when he noticed the other two adults in the room, Miwa and Shikaku Nara. Bowing politely to them in greeting, Naruto turned to the Hokage in askance. What's going on, old man? Instead of a reply from the Hokage, Naruto heard a startled gasp from Miwa and an amused chuckle from Shikaku. Waving it off, Hiruzen got right to the reason behind this meeting. Naruto-kun, the Naras and I want to take some more measures towards your safety and well-being, and they have requested to adopt you. As the four heads in the room turned towards Naruto expectantly, all they were met with was silence. Naruto's face was quite unreadable. The lack of emotion almost made it seem that the boy's face had been frozen and was unable to muster any form of expression. Naruto's turned his face towards the floor, and the only indication that he was alive was the slight quivering of his shoulders. Since this was quite the big deal, no one decided to push him into giving an answer. When I was in the orphanage I heard that kids over the age of 6 don't usually get picked for adoption. I gave up. I am close to double that age now. I didn't think I'd ever have parents. My best shot for a family was going to be when I made one of my own, said Naruto. Slight sobs racking his frame indicated by the increased quiver of his shoulders. I don't get it. Why now? Why not earlier? I have been alone for 11 years. You saw me that day at the flower shop and decided on a whim? I don't want pity. I have gone on just fine ignoring the hate in everyone's eyes, finished Naruto, turning to the elder Naros, awaiting a reply. Miwa spoke up. Naruto-kun, you might not believe it, but there are a lot of people who genuinely care for you. More so than you know. Forget the idiots in the village. We want to give you a family and a home. We want to keep you safe. You are quite special to us. Silence ensued again, and this time it lasted significantly longer than the first. Still, no one prodded the boy. As the sobs subdued, Naruto lifted his head slowly, exposing the wet carpet spots indicating the tears that escaped his eyes. Naruto turned to Shikamaru and asked, So Shikamaru, when do I get to call you Shikani? With a characteristic tsk and a mutter of troublesome, Shikamaru placed his hand on Naruto's right shoulder and gave him a smile. Miwa was ecstatic and hugged the boy from behind, embracing both Naruto and Shikamaru in the process, resulting in the latter boy squirming in her embrace, attempting to wriggle out. Shikamaru's futile attempts resulted in laughter from the majority of the group and helped to reduce the anxiety in the room. Hiruzen cleared his throat in order to direct attention towards himself, and Naruto looked towards his Hokage. Naruto-kun, you should know that there is a process involved in the adoption, and it must be cleared with the Shinobi Council first. This means it could take time and the decision could swing either way. Therefore, until it is confirmed, I urge you, and Shikamaru, not to say anything to your friends or anyone for that matter. Naruto looked dubious and voiced his concerns accordingly. The council? None of the kids at the orphanage needed clearance from them. Why is it the case for my adoption? As you will be a ninja of Konoha soon, there are some matters that need to be discussed. Hiruzen lied easily. It saddened him to deceive the boy, but the Hokage did not feel that he was ready to know all the secrets about his past. Naruto accepted what the Hokage had to say as the truth and turned to face Shikaku, who had just moved to place his hand on the boy. There is one thing you need to know, Naruto-kun. To honor the memory of your biological parents, we would like you to keep your last name, and not change it to Nara, finished the clan head of the Shadow Users. You will have a house and a family in the future, but it is important not to forget your roots. Shikamaru raised an intrigued eyebrow at this revelation, as he was not aware of this part of the plan. While the Nara name carried some weight around Konoha, surely an adoption into the clan as opposed to the house, as it were, would not be a big deal. However, he did not voice his opinion as his father's explanation regarding honoring Naruto's parents' memory made sense to him. I might not know them, but I am sure I would not want to forget them. I'll continue to be in Uzumaki, Naruto told Shikaku. Hiruzen dismissed the two boys on the account of wanting to discuss the legal issues concerning the adoption. When the boys had left, the Hokage discussed their plans to convince the council to favor the adoption. As this was a newly conceived idea, there was not much to talk about, and at its conclusion, Hiruzen decided to tell the Naras about Naruto's extra training. One of my ninja has been training Naruto in the art of Kenjutsu. Assuming the adoption goes favorably, I would very much appreciate it if you would let the boy continue his studies. His instructor tells me he holds much promise, Hiruzen told the parents sat across the table from him. Of course, Hokage-sama, Shikaku said whilst getting up. Miwa followed suit and the couple took their leave. Ever since the Kyuubi disaster, the only truly troublesome matter that the Hokage had to deal with was the attempted Uchiha coup and the subsequent massacre that followed. Naruto's adoption had the potential to place itself right up there in his list of headaches. Hiruzen was determined to fight for Naruto's well-being, but he was well aware that he was up against a massive hurdle. However, he would have support this time. The Naras, the Yamanakas, the Akimikis, and possibly even the Inuzukas and Aburames would be favorable to the adoption. Things already looked promising in gaining a majority vote, but Danzo, Kohara and Hamura posed a significant threat to his plans, and he could ill afford to ignore their persuasive abilities. Chapter 6. A dangerous game of cat and mouse. The tension in the council room was so thick on the day the Naras announced their plans to adopt Naruto Uzumaki, that Chozo Akimichi could have sworn Danzo Shimura shot off an electric attack from his solitary eye only to be countered by a similar attack from his own shadow-using friend. No progress was made on the subject matter, and no opinions were swayed. The Naras vehemently decided to stick to their argument of protection for the boy, while their opposition insisted that the balance of power between the clans would be thrown off. Even with assurances that Naruto would not be a Nara and would continue being an Uzumaki, answerable only to his Hokage, the council was not fully convinced. However, the few people who were previously sitting on the fence and held sympathy for the boy's plight were now leaning in favor of the adoption. With the lack of success and the certainty that the subject matter would be broached again in the next council meeting in 2 weeks' time, the meeting broke up before the hostility in the room escalated and translated to a course of action which would only bring about regret. Determined to bring the adoption to fruition, Shikaku and Hiruzen met often to formulate ways to convince the council to bring forth a favorable ruling. They worked tirelessly and often employed Chozo's and Inochi's advice to help solve the issue at hand. Misinformation was the deadliest tool in the ninja trade. A ninja misinformed about the strength and capabilities of his or her opponent was facing an uphill task before the mission even commenced. For sensitive Black Op missions such as the one Yugao was about to undertake, the ability to adapt once the lack of information was identified was often the difference between life and death. Lying in her hospital bed, Yugao recalled the conversation she had with the Hokage but a week ago and the subsequent mission she was sent out on. Most ANBU Black Op missions were issued by the Hokage in person, as sensitive information such as the mission parameters and targets could not be afforded a paper trail. As Yugao entered the Hokage office, she unfastened her cat-designed mask and stood at attention. Cat, a certain businessman in the land of the wave, is causing a lot of trouble for their inhabitants. We believe that ridding this man from his position of power will allow Konoha a favorable standing with the people of the country. While their economic situation is deplorable, their geographical position puts them in quite an advantage. They are a common port for many trading ships. If you chose to accept, you will be required to kill Gado, the head of Gado Company, Hiruzen informed Yugao. It shall be done, Hokage-sama, replied Yugao. One more thing, the Naras wish to adopt Naruto into their family. He won't be a Nara, but he will have a family and a home. What do you think? Hiruzen questioned Yugao, curious to know what the Kunoichi thought about the matter. A stable house could do the boy wonders. Hopefully, some of that Nara calm will rub off on him. When he gets frustrated in our sessions, he forgets his training and starts attacking with reckless abandon. I can't see any harm done with the proposal. However, I can't imagine all of the Shinobi Council approves, said Yugao. We shall see what happens. Know that while there is no formal timescale for your mission, the sooner you accomplish your objective the better, finished the Hokage. Hiruzen handed Yugao a small scroll. She opened the scroll, memorized the contents, and proceeded to burn the scroll. Yugao placed the mask on her face again, bowed low and disappeared in a shunshin. As Yugao was leaving through the gates of Konoha, she took a detour to head towards Naruto's house and slid a note under his door, informing him that there would be no practice sessions for a while. The contents of the scroll had informed her that Gado had employed a few samurai bodyguards for protection. Yugao knew she could dispatch those men easily and then proceed with the assassination of the shipping magnate. In the cover of the night, Yugao proceeded to tree hop until she reached the border between the Fire Country and Wave Country. Hiding her armor and other ninja tools in her pack, Yugao donned civilian clothing and rented a hotel room in the Land of Waves. She would finish off the mission under the cover of the following night. The 2-day journey to the border and the subsequent journey on foot to the Land of Waves meant Yugao reached her hotel late at night, 3 nights after her departure from Konoha. Using the daylight hours to recuperate her lost energy and strength, Yugao idly wondered what Naruto had been doing over the days of her absence. She admired the boy's work ethic, the results of which were clearly defined in his lithe physique and improved speed. However, he had much room for improvement in his sword techniques. Yugao waited until past midnight before she began her preliminary scouting of the premises. Her search revealed that there were 3 hired ronin, as was outlined in the scrolls she had burned earlier. Satisfied with her search, Yugao slunk into the shadows and proceeded to make her way through to the room which housed the sleeping Gato. Making short work of the three Ronin, Yugao made her way towards the room with an uneasy feeling. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, and her paranoia served her well as she ducked at the opportune moment to avoid a thrown kunai from her blind spot. Quickly turning to face her attacker, Yugao cursed at the sight in front of her. A ninja was part of the protection detail as well. A former cloud shinobi, if his scratched-out hitate was anything to go by. Cold steely eyes bored into Yugao's own brown orbs as both ninja prepared for battle. The tiny corridor they were situated in was inappropriate for the upcoming battle. The inevitable demolition that would follow could cause a cave-in and result in Yugao causing harm to herself, even at the prospect of dealing a blow to her target. Thinking quickly, Yugao threw a pair of kunai at her attacker, who pulled out his sword to deflect the thrown projectiles with ease. Seeing her opponent's sword drawn, Yugao was tempted to draw her own, and the two commenced their deadly battle. As swords struck in midair, Yugao was acutely aware that her attacker was maneuvering her away from her target. However, she paid this no heed, as she fully intended to return to the room once she dispatched of her current opponent. Entering the vast backyard of the compound, the battle picked up pace and vigor, as the two swordsmen were afforded the luxury of space. Yugao was mildly impressed with the Cloud Ninja's ability with the sword. He had managed to keep pace with the kunoichi with ease. Deciding to test her opponent further, Yugao decided to step things up a notch and gauge the former Cloud Ninja's abilities further. The clashing of swords had alerted Gato of an intruder, and he was proved correct when he heard the sound echo from his backyard. Gato quickly retreated to his panic room and commanded his bodyguards to aid in killing the intruder. When Gato got no response from them, he realized they were no longer among the living and hoped the expensive ninja that he hired would be sufficient for the job. The deadly dance between the Cloud Ninja and Yugao continued, the only sound between the two coming from the moments in which their swords clanged against each other. Coming to a stalemate once again, the two ninja pushed off each other to gain some distance. For the first time in their encounter, the Cloud Ninja spoke up. "You are very adept with the sword, Kunoichi-san." Smirking behind her mask, Yugao replied, "Unfortunately, I can't seem to find much fault in your skill either, Nukunin-san." As the short reprieve finished, the two ninja continued their battle of swords, ducking and slashing at each other to no avail. Yugao finally created an opportunity for herself when she ducked underneath a horizontal slash and cut her attacker's ligaments in his right leg, causing a severe blow to the man's speed. As she rose up behind her attacker, she was caught off guard when she heard a yell of Cloud-style reverse beheading. As Yugao turned in instinct, she noticed her attacker was in the process of finishing a spin, attempting to cut her head off in the process. Acting instinctively, Yugao put up her left arm in defense. However, the act was futile, as the sword strike cut through the lightweight arm guards she had on, and the sword slashed through the length of her arm, severing muscle and tendon asunder. The two swordsmen were at an impasse. Yugao was bleeding profusely from her arm and needed to make a strategic retreat, lest she bleed to her death. She also knew that the damage caused to her opponent meant that he could not give chase. Consigned to the fact that her mission was a failure, she made a hasty retreat until the border of Konoha, making a quick detour only to stop off at her hotel room to pick up her pack, which contained the required first aid kit. Bandaging up the large wound, Yugao swallowed some blood-replenishing pills and some soldier pills and made her way to Konoha as quickly as possible, ignoring the biting pain from her left arm. The journey back took Yugao half the time it took her to get to the Land of Waves, stopping twice, once to change her bandage and once to get some rest and add a fresh wrapping of her bandage. Reaching the gates of Konoha, Yugao was quickly ushered to the hospital for emergency treatment. Despite her best efforts, the wound she had sustained had still managed to become infected, and the severity of the damage to her arm meant that she needed specialist help to aid in her recovery. The mission had taken 4.5 days, and she had spent the last 3 days in the hospital. As she recovered from her infection fairly quickly, the lack of sensation in her left arm was bothersome. Her sessions with the specialist yielded no results, and she was doomed to countless sessions of physiotherapy until the muscles knitted themselves back together so that her arm would once again be functional. After spending a week in the hospital, she was beginning to become frustrated. The Hokage had come to meet her so that she could get debriefed about the mission, and while she knew he was disappointed at the outcome of the mission, he did not express his displeasure. On the 8th day, the Hokage, in the company of the ANBU Commander Bear and the specialist doctor that had been tending to her over the past week, visited Yugao once again. "Ohio Yugao-chan. I come bearing good news and bad news. The good news is that you can be discharged today. However, you still have to schedule sessions with the doctor to aid your recovery. The bad news, and I tell you this after much discussion with Bear, is that we are going to suspend you from ANBU duties until you make a full recovery," the Hokage told Yugao, trying to break the news as gently as possible. Yugao had come to expect this, not the date of her discharge, but the fact that she would no longer be ANBU. ANBU ninja were the elite of the elite, requiring ninja to go on missions, which would be considered suicidal by others. As such, the ninja of the ANBU had to be the most skilled, as well as fully fit for duties. With her current lack of sensation in her left arm, Yugao left herself exposed to equally dangerous enemies, which could threaten the completion of the mission as well as her safety during a mission and the well-being of any comrades she would have. Yugao tried to look brave in front of her Hokage and ANBU commander, but with words escaping her, she managed a meek nod and turned her eyes away from the pair with a downcast look. The pair took their leave, allowing the doctor to do one last checkup before Yugao left the hospital. Satisfied that there were no further complications to his patient's condition, he took his leave as well, leaving the kunoichi to her thoughts. Yugao was recruited into ANBU just as she had become a jonin. Recognizing the opportunity presented to her, Yugao forwent her aspirations of being an instructor to serve in the prestigious ranks of ANBU. Yugao was certain that she would be reinstated to her jonin status after her discharge. The life of exciting missions already behind her, and she had to forfeit her dreams of being a jonin instructor for the upcoming batch of ninja as she had not put forth her name in the list of prospective instructors. Damn it, if I had known then at least I could have been an instructor. Maybe I could have taught Naruto-kun officially. Thinking about her charge, she idly wondered if she could still teach the boy outside of his own training with his genin squad. As she thought about it, a smile came across her features for the first time since she found out about her dismissal from the ANBU Corps. It wouldn't be a problem. He was still not going to be able to land a strike on her. Before Yugao would have to surrender her ANBU mask, she was determined to meet Naruto one last time with it. She would need to tell the boy about her predicament, and how it would affect him. Meeting in the clearings of one of the training grounds, Naruto was anticipating a new lesson with his sensei. He had not had a lesson in well over a week, and he did not want his limited skills to get rusty. Shadow practice could only go so far. A real opponent was needed to keep his skills sharp. "Ohio, Kat-senpai," Naruto said when he spotted his master leaning on one of the trees that shaped the clearing. "Ohio, Naruto-kun. I need to tell you something. I was assigned an ANBU mission and sustained an injury whilst in combat. As such, I have been suspended from the ANBU until I recover." Naruto was confused as to why his master was telling him this. Would this mean that their sessions were going to stop? But he thoroughly enjoyed sword training. Was the injury so serious that his master could not be a ninja at all? As the doubts plagued Naruto's mind, Yugao decided to clarify the matter. "I will still be teaching you. But now, I have no need for this mask." The soft click indicating that Yugao was unfastening her mask focused Naruto's eyes, as he was now aware that he was about to see his master's face for the first time. As the mask was removed, Naruto laid eyes on his sensei's face for the first time. The purple hair he had already seen, coupled with the brown eyes, pale complexion and lips accentuated by a deep red lipstick made Naruto think of only one thing: she is cuter than Sakura-chan and Ino-chan. Wondering where that comparison came from, Naruto quickly refocused himself and shot off a series of questions. "You said you were hurt, senpai? Is the injury serious? Would you be taking a break from teaching?" Laughing lightly, Yugao assured her protege that her plans for him would not be affected by her injury. Upon further show of concern for her well-being from Naruto, Yugao became exasperated and disappeared from Naruto's view, only to reappear with her blade drawn out pointing towards the boy's back from her position behind him. "Just because I am hurt doesn't make me useless, Naruto-kun. You would do well to remember that." With those last words, Naruto's latest session with his recently unmasked instructor began. The session was especially brutal, and he was sure this was the case because Yugao wanted to prove the point she made in her last comment. When the session finally ended, Naruto thanked his sensei. "Thank you, Kat-sensei." Naruto finished with a bow. "Not anymore. Without this mask, I am not Kat anymore." "You can call me Yugao-sensei," replied the former ANBU ninja. "Hi, Yugao-sensei," Naruto said, bowing down once again before he left the clearing, heading home for some well-deserved rest and relaxation. As the end of June rolled in, Hiruzen and Shikaku had been battling the non-committal fraction of the Shinobi Council tooth and nail to sway the required number of votes their way. With the knowledge that the Ino Shikacho group would stick together through thick and thin and Hiruzen's support, Shikaku could not see them losing this vote, but it would be unwise to count his chickens before they hatched. Despite Danzo's explicit disdain for the adoption of Naruto Uzumaki by Shikaku and Niwanara, the motion passed favorably. Naruto was called into the Hokage Tower along with Shikamaru and Miwa. Naruto was unaware of the results of the adoption vote, and assumed that he was to meet the Hokage about his monthly allowance for the month of July. When Naruto walked in, he saw the three Naros he was familiar with and greeted them politely, offering Shikamaru an overtly enthusiastic hug. "Naruto, I am happy to announce that the council has voted in favor of your adoption. You can move in with the Naros at your earliest convenience," Hiruzen told Naruto. The words Naruto caught caused him to become glazed over and he turned to the elder Naros for confirmation of the news. Getting an affirmative nod from Shikaku, Naruto ran towards the couple to hug them briefly before he jumped onto his brother and hugged and shook him in delight. At the end of his celebrations, the tears in Naruto's eyes were evident, but he did not mind them, as they were tears of celebration and happiness. "So Naruto-kun, when do you want to go tell all your friends about this?" Shikaku asked with a knowing smile, as both his sons had been forbidden to speak about the adoption until it was finalized, and expecting Naruto to keep such a big secret from his friends was clearly unnatural for the blonde. "Right now." "Come on, Shika and I," said Naruto with a face-splitting smile, as he headed off towards the park to share the news. It was the weekend and training could wait a couple of hours. Watching Naruto drag an unwilling Shikamaru along, the Hokage and the Nara couple laughed along before they sat down to finalize the details of the adoption. Chapter 7, The Apprentice. Irika Yumino was puzzled, and thoroughly so. His most controversial student, Naruto Uzumaki, had managed to spectacularly fail the last portion of his exam. There was no indication that this sort of thing would happen. Regretfully, he could not change the rules. A student needs passing grades in the written exams, basic skills and ninjutsu to graduate from the ninja academy. In fact, Naruto had started brilliantly well. Ever since his adoption by the Nara clan, Naruto had become far more focused in his studies. Iruka assumed the added devotion was some sort of means to repay the Naros for their kindness. Whatever it was, Iruka was happy as a serious Naruto meant a non-pranking Naruto, most of the time. Naruto's skill with taijutsu and weapon handling were showing promising developments over the past 2 years, and Iruka felt he had himself to blame if he couldn't have spotted Naruto's need for remedial instruction in bunshin making. The clone Naruto made during his examination period was so sickly and ineffective that the only way the blonde would be able to beat someone in battle with it is if they laughed themselves to surrender or defeat. Of all the students in his class, the one who showed the most improvement was one of the few to fail. It was now up to him to assign the students who passed this year's exam their teammates to form the latest batch of Genin teams. With the advent of Naruto's failing, Iruka would have a hard time assigning teams as well as an unpleasant one. If Iruka considered his previous day was unpleasant, then his morning didn't show any signs of his problems abating. Waking up to a furious knocking on his door, Iruka was surprised to see his assistant teacher, Mizuki. Hurry. We need to go to the Hokage's place right away. Naruto has stolen the scroll of seals, Mizuki said. Iruka followed Mizuki in a daze with several questions swirling around in his head, and the one which held most prominent was, how does Naruto even know about the scroll of seals or where it was kept? Iruka headed towards the woods to try and locate the blonde troublemaker. A few moments later, Iruka spied his target and hopped off the branch he was on to land in front of Naruto. Sensei. Oh man. You are here already? I thought I would have some more time. Can you come back in a little while? I'll have the technique done soon. Then I can have my hitate as well, right? That's what Mizuki-sensei told me. Naruto spewed the words, hoping to get some more time to practice. What are you talking about? Why did you steal the scroll? Are you learning a technique from the scroll? Iruka asked Naruto, still perplexed about the absurdity of the situation. What? You don't know? Alright. So after I failed the test last evening I didn't go back home because I didn't know how to tell Miwa-san and Shikaka-san that I failed the exam, after all they did for me. That's when Mizuki-sensei found me and told me about the secret way to graduate, Naruto explained. Naruto took a deep breath before continuing. Just like Mizuki-sensei said, the scroll was in the Hokage's place and I took it. I tried to learn a jutsu from the scroll but it is very complicated. I opened it, and the first one was a type of bunshin jutsu, and since that's the reason I failed the exam, I looked for another jutsu. Iruka-sensei, there are a lot of neat jutsus in here, did you know that? Iruka let the boy ramble on, determined to uncover the real happenings of the situation at hand. He realized that Mizuki was the one who supplied Naruto with the information regarding the location of the scroll. So I finally found a jutsu I liked. The person who wrote the scroll calls it chakra beam. The principle behind the jutsu seems easy but I cannot get past the first stage. Please give me some more time to finish it up, please? Pleaded Naruto, completely unaware of the seriousness of the situation at hand. After finally getting a grasp of the situation, Iruka was about to question Naruto, but instead dived towards the boy and pushed the blonde out of the way of the incoming kunai. Unfortunately, however, a few of the kunai hit the chunin, one even going painfully through his right thigh. Without even looking up to face his attacker, Iruka knew who threw the kunai. When Iruka heard Mizuki order Naruto to return the scroll to the assistant teacher, Iruka's suspicions were confirmed. Instead of focusing on his attacker, Iruka decided to protect the young boy. Naruto, run away as far as you can from here. Don't turn back. Go. Now, Iruka shouted the last bit, hoping to convey the urgency through his tone. Unfortunately, Naruto did not take Iruka's heating seriously enough, and his stunned state allowed Mizuki to break the confused boy's spirit further by disclosing the secret about the QB ceiling. Naruto stood in the clearing in the woods stupidly. The only words that Mizuki spoke that registered reverberated inside his head with a pounding so severe that he felt his head might explode soon. You are the nine-tailed demon fox. Eventually, the words registered and Naruto finally understood why all the adults and most of the kids in Konoha treated him so harshly. Coming to terms with this new information, Naruto found himself oddly at peace, for now he knew that ubiquitous hatred of the people was justified in some sense. He did not think he was a demon fox himself, but he empathized with the villagers. He did not approve of their actions but understood why they might have felt compelled to do as they did. However, Naruto found out that his newly found revelation came at a deadly price. As he looked up to face Mizuki, Naruto found a large shuriken whizzing through the air, poised to impale the blonde mercilessly. Naruto closed his eyes in anticipation of the pain that would inevitably follow and felt silly for bracing himself for far too long. The shuriken should have hit him by now. Did Mizuki-sensei miss? Naruto finally opened his eyes as he felt a drop splatter on his face. Reluctantly opening his eyes, the sight in front of the blonde horrified him. Iruka lay bent over the boy in a protective stance, playing the role of a human shield, preventing Naruto from getting hit by the shuriken at the cost of getting himself impaled. Things were starting to get overwhelming for Naruto, and he finally took heed of Irika's advice and bolted into the deeper section of the woods as fast as he could, skidding to a stop and hiding behind a tree when he heard the clashing of bodies onto the forest floor. Naruto kept as quiet as possible to try and learn more about the Kyuubi ceiling from conversation between his two teachers. The demon fox would do that, but Naruto is different, Irika wheezed, the damage from the shuriken and the subsequent battle taking its toll. Those words by Irika plucked at Naruto's heartstrings, hard and unrelentingly. It was the acknowledgement he had strived so hard to receive. He finally got it, even if it came after the friends he made and his new family was formed, and now the person who acknowledged him was about to die. He isn't the demon fox. He is a member of the Hidden Leaf Village, said Irika, mustering all the conviction he had left. He is Uzumaki Naruto. Those last words were the final push Naruto needed to get him out of his funk. There was no way Naruto was going to be useless about it, and let the man who risked his own life to protect him die without Naruto putting up a fight. Naruto sprang from his hiding place and drove a foot as hard as possible towards Mizuki's face. With Mizuki's attention on finishing off the troublesome Irika, Naruto was able to catch the assistant instructor unawares and deal a devastating blow. Mizuki quickly brought himself to his feet to face his assailant. Naruto's bravado momentarily amused Mizuki, and so the Chunin declared he would eliminate the boy in a single stroke. Naruto was now calmer than he had been since this whole encounter had been. Mizuki had threatened to kill the man who saved his life. As Mizuki approached the boy, he noticed that Naruto had the palm of his right hand open with his fingers pointing downwards. As Mizuki took another step forward, Naruto warned his traitorous teacher, "Stay back." Taunting the blonde, Mizuki took another step forward, causing the boy to thrust his arm forward, rotating his wrist so as to point the open palm, with the fingers now facing upwards, towards Mizuki. "Chakra beam!" Naruto exclaimed. Alas, the attack was to no avail. The only visible effect of the attack was the dispersion of a few leaves within a foot-long radius in front of the extended arm, as a result of the expelled chakra. Mizuki burst out into an uproarious laughter. "Is that all you got? Your silly attack didn't come close to me." Mizuki continued laughing, as he took purposeful, menacing steps towards the now frightened boy. "I am warning you. Step back." Naruto sputtered. He had not even come close to the mastering the jutsu, but in his desperation it seemed his only option. Mizuki strode forward with confidence, and Naruto's fear and anger rose with each step Mizuki took. As Mizuki placed himself mere couple feet away from Naruto, he tried the attack again, yelling its name to echo the feelings inside of him. Chakra beam. This time the amount of chakra imbued in the attack was significantly greater and equally out of control. Mizuki was blown away by the impact of the arm thrust, as a volatile chakra-enhanced fist impacted against Mizuki's gut. The force of the blow sent the Chunin to a nearby tree, his head pinging off the bark, knocking Naruto's aggressor into the land of the unconscious. "Naruto. Come here," Irika meekly called out. Naruto had only now realized that his bravado was all for the sake of protecting his beloved teacher, and immediately ran to his side to check up on him. Irika stopped Naruto's panic by grabbing onto one of his wrists, and asking the boy to close his eyes. Complying with his sensei's request, Naruto closed his eyes momentarily until he heard Irika speak again. "Congratulations on graduating, Naruto," Irika said, a smile on his face as he spoke to the blonde. Naruto felt an unfamiliar weight on his head and realized that the missing hitate on his teacher's head was the cause of the unfamiliar weight on his head. Tackling his instructor in joy, Naruto hugged Irika until the older man cried out in pain from the pressure being put on his newly acquired injuries. "We need to return that scroll back, Naruto," Irika told the boy, giving Naruto the cue to let him loose from his embrace. The Chunin and newly minted Genin walked towards the Hokage tower, glad that the ordeals of the day had finally come to a close. When they finally entered the Hokage's office, Naruto met someone he had not seen in the morning hours ever. "Yugao-sensei. How come you are here?" asked the curious Naruto. Instead of getting a reply from Yugao, Hiruzen addressed Naruto. "Naruto-kun, you have had quite an eventful 12 hours, haven't you?" questioned the Hokage. On the way from the woods to the Hokage tower, Naruto was told about the significance of the scroll he had stolen and the implications of his actions. Naruto had the decency to look embarrassed in front of his commanding officer. "I saw what happened with the crystal ball. I am not mad at you for what happened. But I am curious, how do you feel, now that you know the truth?" The Hokage finished. Naruto scratched the back of his neck as he thought carefully about his answer. "To be honest, I haven't had much time to process the whole thing. I do understand why a lot of the villagers glare at me like they do now. Irika-sensei explained it to me though. I am only its jailer, I am not the Kyuubi." "That is very mature of you, Naruto. I am proud of you." "Any other questions?" inquired the Hokage. "I do have one more. Irika-sensei told me I should ask you, as he was young when the attack happened and doesn't remember all the details. Why was I selected for the ceiling?" Naruto asked, since Irika had offered no answer on the subject matter before. For the Kyuubi to be sealed effectively, it needed to be contained in the body of a newly born child. If you recall, the Kyuubi attacked Konoha on the same day you were born. You were the most ideal candidate for the sealing. Hiruzen chose to answer with a half-truth. "So what about my parents? Did they not want me? Is that why they offered me up for the sealing?" asked Naruto, his thoughts turning darker as he could not help but feel the betrayal. Quite the contrary, Naruto-kun. I am sure your parents loved you very much, but unfortunately they died trying to protect the village from the Kyuubi. I am sorry you never got to meet them, Hiruzen answered. It was the truth, it just wasn't the truth with all the details. Not fully understanding the finer workings of a seal strong enough to contain a tailed beast, Naruto accepted the story as the truth. He was curious about the identity of his parents, but that was for another day. While he was pondering over the information he learned over the past few hours, Naruto saw Iruka hand over a document to the Hokage. Hiruzen studied the document carefully and nodded in approval to himself as he finished reading the document. Naruto also noticed that during the entire time he had been in the office, Yugao had not spoken once. Naruto, as you know, the students that pass the academy exam are placed into provisional 3-man teams who will become a Genin squad, the Hokage began. While Iruka has given you credit for passing, the initial teams had already been devised prior to your unofficial graduation, Hiruzen finished. Does that mean I am not a Genin even though I've passed? Asked Naruto. For the first time since being in the office, Naruto heard Yugao speak. No, Naruto. It means that you haven't been assigned a team and a Jonin sensei. Genin squads aren't the only way forward to newly graduated academy students. Though it is very rare, Jonin or well-established Chunin could offer their services to take upon a single student under an apprenticeship. Naruto considered Yugao's words carefully, and he was fairly sure he had assimilated the information correctly. I accept. Naruto shouted in response to the unasked question. Yugao and the Hokage laughed while Iruka looked unperplexed. Usually, a graduate is supposed to ask his or her superior if they would like to have an apprentice, Naruto, Yugao chided. Iruka put the pieces together and considering the familiarity in the relationship between Yugao and Naruto, Iruka established that they had had prior contact. While he did not know on what premise the relationship was established, Iruka did recall Naruto referred to Yugao as sensei when they first entered the office. Iruka finally voiced his thoughts. Hokage-sama, how long have Yugao-san and Naruto known each other, and what has Yugao-san been instructing Naruto in? Naruto answered for the Hokage, jubilant at the prospect of having Yugao as his instructor in an official capacity. This meant no more late-night training sessions. They would train all day. I am going to be the greatest swordsman ever. Yugao-sensei has been teaching me for almost a year and a half now. She teaches me kenjutsu and some basic training as well, answered Naruto, restlessness causing him to bounce on his heels, bobbing up and down like a buoy in the open seas. I never would have thought Naruto would be interested in kenjutsu training. This extra training does explain his increased speed. It would be more than useful for a kenjutsu user, thought Iruka to himself. Iruka was distracted from his musings when he heard the Hokage speak. Naruto, you and Yugao-chan can discuss the details of your training later. I think you should go home now. Miwa-chan and Shikaka-san were quite upset when you didn't go home last night. Don't worry, I have told them what happened, but I am sure they would like to have you home. Besides, they don't know you are a Genin yet. Why don't you go share the good news? The reality of the situation had just hit him, and it hit him like a ton of bricks. Naruto had not even told his adoptive parents that he failed. He had not even gone home. Shikamaru would have known that Naruto failed, but he would not be able to answer questions about his whereabouts over the past 12 hours. Kyuso. Naruto cursed. I have got to go. I'll talk to you later, Yugao-sensei. Thank you, Iruka-sensei. Bye, old man, Naruto blurted out before he turned around and sprinted to the Nara compound as fast as his legs could carry him. Chapter 8. Sprinting towards the demon. It had been 3 months since Naruto and the rest of his class graduated to become the latest batch of Konoha Genin, and in that time, Naruto often returned home with his fair share of bruises. Shikamaru had often complained about how troublesome being a Genin was, what with all the glorified chores that they were instructed to do. However, under Yugao's guidance, Naruto spent more time training than any of his colleagues and doing fewer missions as a consequence. If he was fair to himself, Naruto didn't particularly mind being given the short end of the stick with respect to his share of mission allocations. On the few D-rank missions he had done, and the many more he had heard from Shikamaru about his team, Team 10, Naruto could not fathom how any of these missions could help better a ninja. They were chores and Naruto was glad not to be running about wasting time doing the same. However, being under Yugao as an apprentice meant that Naruto had barely seen his friends since the mishap with Mizuki at the end of the last year. In fact, he had only told Shikamaru about his graduation, and that was solely due to the fact that they lived in the same house. Naruto had been trained into the ground, and on some days that expression took a literal meaning as well. Yugao was adamant that Naruto would have to improve his basics and his abilities as a ninja before they undertook any higher-level missions. This was motivation enough for Naruto, as he had no intentions on doing cumbersome chores for lazy village folk. Naruto's initial training focused on dodging ability and kenjutsu katas. Yugao had painfully drilled into Naruto the importance of being nimble and the advantages of dodging as opposed to blocking. If you dodge my sword swing, you are already in a position of favor. Missing your strike could lead you to be off balance, making you an easier target to strike down. Read your opponent's body to help predict where and when the strike will come from. Then use whatever little is in the space in between your ears and choose a direction that is most favorable for you to dodge towards, Yugao had said, adding emphasis to her point whilst dodging a wild strike from Naruto in retaliation to the insult. and poking her own bakken firmly up his backside to illustrate an example of her advice. Naruto had not grown much physically over the past 3 months, but his development was more visible on the training grounds as opposed to on the streets. He had become faster, significantly so as well if he were to consider Yugao's proclamation, and that was more than good enough for him. Naruto's increase in speed was a result of some brutal training that involved adding weights to his limbs and then training as normal. With small increments in the weight, he had seen no improvement after 2.5 months. But when instructed to spar against Yugao with the training weights off, Naruto had realized what an effective training method it was and was only stopped from increasing the weights on his body after being told about the pitfalls of overdoing the training regimen. Naruto had not known to experience any pain as a result of his training in a long while and was confused. He had often asked Yugao why he healed from his scrapes and bruises so quickly, and the only answer he got led to him questioning the presence of the beast sealed up within him. As Naruto and Yugao headed up to pick up their mission for the week, Naruto decided to ask the Hokage about the side effects of having a massive chakra construct sealed within oneself. To be honest, Naruto, not much has been documented about the abilities that the tailed beasts bestow upon their hosts, but there is some evidence that there are certain benefits. The first Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi was known to have an innate ability to sense negative emotions in their surroundings. Enhanced healing could very well be another gift as a result of being a Jinchuriki. Both quite useful to a ninja, I might add, Hiruzen told Naruto before he had had the chance to issue the master and apprentice pair a mission. Naruto looked up pleadingly at Yugao. The silent message was clear. Please, not another D rank. Yugao would not offer Naruto any consolation as she just shrugged in response to his look. At that very moment, an overtly out-of-breath-looking Chunin entered the mission room. Hokage-sama, we have an urgent message from Kakashi-san requested backup for his mission. The message was brought in by one of his hounds, said the Chunin, handing over a scroll to the Hokage as he made every effort to catch his breath. The Hokage read the message and raised his eyebrows in alarm. Team 7's encounter with the Demon Brothers all but ensured that he had sent an ill-prepared team to Wave. Kakashi had requested the assistance of an additional Jonin or Chunin in anticipation of greater threats in the future. The Hokage looked up from the request scroll and looked at the present company. With the Demon Brothers' involvement, the C-rank mission had gone up to a B-rank mission, and if Kakashi thought that stronger opponents could surface, that would mean that the Genin he sent in previously would be hard-pressed to return to Konoha if multiple strong ninja were involved. Unfortunately, his forces were spread fairly thin, and one of his most capable ninjas stood right in front of him. Hiruzen was in an ethical dilemma. He could send Yugao in for reinforcements, but that would mean having to send Naruto in as well. However, the mission was clearly above the levels of a fresh out of the academy Genin. Failure to send in reinforcements quickly enough, however, could lead to the loss of some promising Genin and one already very accomplished Jonin. Time was of the utmost importance, and Hiruzen made a decision he hoped he would not live to regret. Team Yugao, you are to reinforce Team 7 on their mission in Wave. You will leave right away as they have a day and a half's head start. Team 7 have already had an encounter with the Demon Brothers and it is possible that they will be up against stronger ninja. The mission is a B rank with a high possibility that it will be upgraded to an A rank. Dismissed. Naruto was shocked beyond words. He had hoped he would get a simple C rank mission, an escort mission. At least that way he would get to see what lay beyond the massive walls that protected Konoha. This was beyond his scope, but he knew he needed to act. Sakura and Sasuke were in Team 7, he had learned from Shikamaru, and he would be damned if he didn't help them out to the best of his limited abilities. As Yugao and Naruto left the Hokage Tower, Naruto's mind was a jumble of emotions and thoughts, but he was sensible enough to hear a few words from Yugao on their way out. Lose the weights, grab your pack main gates in 10 minutes. Naruto didn't want to throw the weights away in reckless abandon, so he made his way to the Nara household as quickly as possible, and rid of his weights, grabbing a ninja pack, and sprinting back towards the main gates. Yugao was already waiting for Naruto at the gate and waited just a few seconds before she took off tree-hopping away from Konoha, knowing Naruto would follow. It took Naruto almost a quarter mile out to realize that he felt as light as a feather while maneuvering through the trees following his sensei, who set a quick yet just about manageable pace. Removing the weights had had an astonishing effect on his pace, and he was glad for it considering the time they had had to make up. He had a ton of questions to ask but would focus on covering as much ground as possible for the time being. He had a day and a half's worth of ground to cover, and even if the members of Team 7 and their charge were walking, that was still a lot of mileage. As Naruto caught up to Yugao so that they were traveling side by side, Yugao spoke up. Team 7 have been sent on an escort mission to Wave Country to protect a bridge builder until he and his crew can finish building the bridge. It was supposed to be a simple C-rank mission until the Demon Brothers got themselves involved. The Demon Brothers are a pair of Kirigakyu ninja who are notorious for the teamwork and their use of poisonous weapons. We might pass them on our way there, but we won't be stopping to ask questions. Kakashi's scroll has outlined that they were tied up so that they could be picked up for an arrest. We are to catch up with Team 7 and provide backup until they can finish the mission. This also means that if I am not around, Kakashi-sensei will be your superior. That means you do as he tells you to unless I am around. Understood? Naruto didn't speak but simply nodded to confirm that he had heard what Yugao had said and that he would obey Kakashi's orders in her absence. As they continued the rest of their travel in silence, Naruto reflected back to his progress with the chakra beam technique. or in his case, a lack of progress. With Yugao stressing on kenjutsu training, Naruto had not had a lot of time to practice the technique he had learned from the Scroll of Seals. His chakra control was quite abysmal, and he had never been able to replicate the results he had gotten when he managed to hit Mizuki hard enough to knock him out. He would have to improve his control to improve as a ninja in any case. Better start sooner rather than later. They had covered a lot of ground since the time they had been traveling, and were about to stop when they heard an incessant cursing. Yugao signaled Naruto to stop and he fell in behind his sensei. As Yugao and Naruto proceeded with caution, Yugao was pleasantly surprised to see the infamous demon brothers tied to a tree helpless to their own cause. Yugao signaled Naruto to continue following her and turned around to speak to him. Kakashi sent his message after the encounter with demon brothers. Since they have a civilian client with them, they would have undoubtedly stopped for the night shortly after and left in the morning. If they continued walking, we should be able to meet up with them soon enough. We have been running non-stop for almost 6 hours now. Do you need a break? Yugao asked, concerned about Naruto. She was sure he had never had to run so hard for so long. Naruto thought about it for a while and said, "Do you think we can catch up within a few hours?" Yugao nodded in affirmation. "Then we can take the break when we meet them. We are their reinforcements. If something happened to Sakura and Sasuke while we were taking a break, it would defeat our purpose." "Okay, but pace yourself. If we are needed right away, then it won't be useful if you are out of steam. Here, have a soldier pill and a ration bar. It should return most of your lost energy. Just don't focus on the taste," said Yugao, tossing a small bar and a little bag towards the blonde. Naruto almost spat out the ration bar but managed to keep the contents in. He would need his energy if his friends were in trouble. The soldier pill, which Naruto found in the small bag, went down a lot better, and he felt instantaneously refreshed. As Yugao ate a ration bar and a soldier pill as well, and the pair continued on towards the location of Team 7, picking up the pace slightly after getting some food in. Team 7 had decided to continue on with the mission to help the now sober bridge builder Tazuna after he had explained the state of affairs of his hometown. Kakashi was weary of doing so, but the adamant nature of his students both confused and pleased him. However, he could not afford to just indulge his students without providing support for them. He was a more than capable ninja, but if an opponent of greater caliber than the demon brothers showed up, he would be hard-pressed to both fight them off and defend his students and their charge. As Team 7 walked along, Kakashi wondered if his hound had been able to drop the message off in time, and if suitable reinforcements were sent. Tazuna had said that once they crossed the river, they would be very close to his house. As the boat crossed the narrow strait away from Fire Country and into Wave Country, Kakashi and the rest of his team marveled at the sight of the near-finished bridge. It was quite the spectacle indeed, and if finished, would ruin Gato's stranglehold on the economy of the tiny island country. Whilst walking towards Tazuna's house, Kakashi could not help but feel as though his little group was being watched. Paranoia was a gift and curse to a ninja. Suspecting everything or listening to your gut often helped save your head. However, falling prey to excessive paranoia often led to losing one's mental facilities as well. Kakashi had been in enough battles and honed his senses to belong to the former group. Listening to his instinct, Kakashi yelled for his group to drop to the ground, and for once his team obeyed his orders without question. It was quite a miracle that the members of Team 7 did as they were asked without complaining. The massive cleaver had passed by their heads with just inches to spare. Kakashi recognized the man perched on top of the hilt of the sword instantly. Zabuza Momochi, also known as Demon of the Hidden Mist. Gato has hired a group of defected mist ninja to deal with Tazuna, and when the demon brothers failed, it was up to the big fish to finish up the job. Absolutely great, thought Kakashi. Kakashi fought off Zabuza to the best of his abilities while entrusting the safety of Tazuna to his genin. With Zabuza's preference for fighting from within a mist, the battle was nerve-wracking and Kakashi had found himself kicked into the water. Before he could comprehend what was happening, Kakashi found himself trapped in a dense sphere of water. To make things worse, Zabuza had just created a water clone to finish off his team and Tazuna. Things had gone from bad to worse immediately. Urging his students to run away, Kakashi hoped they would listen for a second time without complaint. Unfortunately, he was not as lucky as Sasuke and Ranmaru, the third genin in his team, attempted to fight against the water clone in a desperate bid to free Kakashi. Ranmaru Kazu was not exactly an exceptional ninja. In fact, he would have not even been on this team if Naruto had managed to pass the exam. With Naruto failing to do so, Ranmaru was placed on the genin team with Sasuke and Sakura. However, Ranmaru was a bullish ninja and was adamant that their chances for survival were far increased with Kakashi outside the water prison. With a clever use of shuriken, Ranmaru and Sasuke had managed to free Kakashi from his water prison. Kakashi was enraged and decided to remind Zabuza exactly why he was called the copycat ninja. As the sounds of screams reached their ears, Naruto and Yugao looked at each other and quickened their pace towards the source of the noise. From afar, Naruto could see that two identical men were fighting against Team 7. One holding the man he had briefly seen in the alley outside the bar all those months ago, in a sphere of water, and another fighting off Sasuke and one of his classmates he was not well acquainted with. It's a clone, Naruto realized as he moved closer towards the scene of the action. When Yugao and Naruto finally arrived, they witnessed a huge clash between two dragons made of water. Within seconds, a massive wall of water crashed upon the ninja who had made the clone earlier and knocked him out against the tree. Naruto landed next to Sakura, startling her out of her wits. Naruto, what are you doing here? Is that a hit 8 on your forehead? But you failed the exams, how do you have a hit 8? Sakura shot off her questions as she recovered from her shock. Later Naruto, Yugao instructed. The arrival of Naruto and Yugao had distracted the members of Team 7 and at that precise moment, two Senbon pierced through Zabuza's neck. Just as quickly as the group was distracted by Naruto's arrival, they whipped their heads around to see a dead Zabuza laying on the floor. Kakashi followed the path of the thrown projectiles back to its source and found a ninja that was most definitely a hunter ninja from the mist. Makes sense, I guess. Zabuza left mist after his failed assassination attempt of the fourth Mizukage. It stands to reason that the Mizukage would send a group out to kill him, but a single ninja that can't be much older than my own Genin? Kakashi pondered to himself. As the ninja disappeared with Zabuza's body, Kakashi was pleased to note that his reinforcements had arrived. Yugao Yuzuki. That's good, she is a very capable jonin. But what is Naruto doing here? Just as Yugao rushed over to meet with Kakashi, he proceeded to meet the forest floor, face first. Need to train harder, the drain from using the Sharingan is still too much to handle. Yugao assumed command of the group as she helped carry Kakashi towards Tazuna's house. She listened to the group around her talk so that she could piece together as much information about the proceedings as possible. As she listened to Sakura and Ranma describe the events as best as possible, she noticed Naruto had dragged Sasuke separately, and could just about make sense of what the two were talking about. Sasuke, about that ninja that you were just fighting. Before you forced him to release your sensei, there were two of them. It was a bunshin, wasn't it? Yup, but it wasn't the regular bunshin we learned about in the academy. This one was made of water, and it was very solid. So, I guess it wasn't anything like the bunshin we learned in the academy. Bunshins that aren't merely used to distract? Why didn't they teach us that in the academy? Naruto wondered. He idly mused if he would be able to figure out that for the examination, or if he would fail that as well. Naruto was pulled out of his musings when he heard Sasuke speak again. Naruto! Want to tell me why you are here with a jonin, with a hit 8 on your head as well? I am guessing Sakura will want to know the answer to that as well. I'll tell you guys when we are all together because I don't want to repeat myself. It's a good story, I promise, said Naruto as he headed towards Yugao, who had beckoned him to help carry Kakashi as they moved towards Tazuna's house. I am proud of you, Naruto. We covered that distance in great time, and although we didn't help much today, we are here and now Kakashi can rest easy. Naruto beamed at the praise and was hoping there would be some food waiting at Tazuna's house, as he was famished and quite ready to join the masked jonin in a similar state of consciousness. Chapter 9. Despair on the Bridge of Hope. Author's note. First and foremost, I would like to acknowledge a mistake in my story. I previously referred to Shikamaru's mother as Miwa, and it has been brought to my attention that her name is actually Yoshino. From here onwards I will be sticking to her original name Yoshino, but I am not sure about how to make the changes to the previous chapters, so you will have to forgive me for that. If anyone does know, let me know. I uploaded an entire document when posting the chapters, so how do I go about fixing the name without having to upload another document to replace the one with the wrong name? If there are any writers out there reading my story, could you please tell me how to add a line to separate my and from the rest of the story? It's on my Word document, but it doesn't pop up when I post a new chapter online. What could I be doing wrong? I hope you enjoyed this installment of Sword Shadow. Sore! Waraji! It's time to pay a visit to that blasted demon, Gato shouted at the closed door of his office. Immediately the two men, who served as bodyguards to the diminutive smuggler, entered the room. The two men that entered the room had completely different appearances, but they both served as samurai from the land of waves. Waraji, the taller of the two, had his hair in 3 parts, and wore an eye patch over his right eye. The left side of his torso was heavily tattooed and he wore a kimono that covered only the bottom half of his body, exposing the bandages that were wrapped around his abdomen. In contrast, Zora wore an unremarkable blue jacket and a purple hat that covered a large part of his pale blue hair. Both men carried their swords on their hips and could be called into action at a moment's notice. The two men held the door of the office open, allowing the bespectacled man to cross into the hallway. Zora and Waraji followed a few paces behind, intent on keeping their meal ticket alive. As Gato entered the room in which Zabuza was being cared for, he made no effort to hide his disdain for the former member of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. You claim yourself to be the devil, and yet you cannot beat a group of genin led by one jonin. Pathetic, Gato exclaimed, spewing spittle as he voiced his unbridled dislike for the turn of events. It had taken a while to gain complete control of the shipping routes in and around the land of waves. For all intents and purposes, the whole region was under his control, but the damnable bridge builder posed a risk to all his power and money. As he lay, Zabuza presented no risk to him while he was under the protection of Zora and Waraji. But that child that was caring for the devil was proving to be a thorn on his side as well. After the quick confrontation between Haku and Gato, the shipping magnate left but was adamant to get the last word in. While I am paying you, you belong to me, Zabuza. Don't you dare forget that. You will eliminate the bridge builder, and if I think you are incapable of doing so, I will send my own ninja to ensure what you started is finished. Gato spat out from the threshold of the room. Turning swiftly on his heel, he left the room, Zora and Waraji following closely behind in silence. Tazuna and the group of Konoha ninja that accompanied him had reached his house just under an hour after their confrontation with Zabuza. Kakashi was laying down on a futon in one of the rooms as directed to by Tsunami, Tazuna's daughter, while he recuperated his energy following his battle with the former Mist Ninja. After depositing Kakashi on the futon, Yugao joined Naruto and his friends who had huddled together in the living room, demanding the details of his presence, and how he had become a genin of Konoha when he had clearly left the academy on graduation day without a hitate. And then the jutsu finally worked, and I knocked Mizuki-sensei out. Then Iruka-sensei gave me his hitate and told me that I had done enough to pass, Naruto said, beaming at the recollection of the memory. It started as a horrible day, the night was even harder, but the whole ordeal ended up as a bright memory. For the longest time, Sasuke and Sakura did not say anything. The story they heard was so absurd, but if anyone was part of such a bizarre story, they both knew that it could only be Naruto. Ranmaru Kazu was the third genin member of Team 7. His strengths focused on thrown weaponry, and he was quite headstrong. However, when it came to his class grades, he was on the other end of the spectrum from Sasuke and Sakura, which meant, with the failure of Naruto in the graduation test, he became the final component of Team 7. Ranmaru stood as tall as Sasuke and wore a dark green shirt and black pants, outfitted with a pair of black ninja sandals. Like Naruto and Sasuke, Ranmaru wore his hitate across his forehead. Ranmaru was the first to speak up after Naruto narrated his story. I don't believe you. If you graduated and become a genin, who is in your team, huh? Why did you only come with a jonin? Where is the rest of your team? Ranmaru asked Naruto. Sasuke and Sakura both turned to face Ranmaru when he had spoken, and when they listened to him, they had to admit he had brought up some good points. It was true, Naruto was here, with only a jonin, and when Kakashi had explained the importance of teamwork during their genin examination, they were sure that all genin would be split up into teams of 3. As the genin of Team 7 looked towards Naruto for an explanation, they were caught unawares of a presence behind them, until she began to speak. Naruto is my apprentice and will continue to be so until either one of us dies or he is promoted to Chunin, Yugao had said from right behind Sakura, causing the pink-haired girl to jump out of her skin at the unexpected arrival of Naruto's sensei. An apprentice? Sasuke questioned. Yugao explained to the members of Team 7 that in exceptional circumstances, genin may be taken on under apprenticeships. And as you can all agree, the conditions that surrounded Naruto's graduation was easily considered exceptional. It was hard to argue that fact. A confrontation with a traitorous former academy teacher, stealing a forbidden scroll, and a near-death experience of their own teacher did indeed make for an exceptional graduation. Yugao-san, if Naruto is your apprentice, what area of the shinobi arts is Naruto training in? Sakura had asked, drawing the attention of the two boys of Team 7 to the still-standing former Anbu. Hee. Naruto giggled childishly as he stood up theatrically, nearly toppling the little table that stood between the 4 genin. Team 7, I, Naruto Uzumaki, am going to be Konoha's greatest swordsman, Naruto shouted, jerking a thumb towards his chest for emphasis. With Kakashi still passed out in the room upstairs, Tsunami and Tazuna joined the 5 Konoha ninja for dinner, where the group split up into several small conversations, Sasuke and Naruto discussing Zabuza's use of Mizu Bunshin, water clones, during their earlier fight, Sakura talking to Yugao about her experience with Kenjutsu, and Ranmaru talking to Tazuna and Tsunami about the Land of Waves. Dinner was progressing smoothly until Inari, Tsunami's son, walked in and expressed his disapproval of a bunch of kids hoping to save Wave Country from Gado's reign of terror. There is no such thing as heroes, Inari shouted, directing the large majority of his ire towards the genin. You guys should just go back home. You can't beat Gado. You are just kids. Why you? Naruto began, determined to silence the snot-nosed brat for the insult they were subject to, only to be held back by Sasuke. Naruto was about to chastise Sasuke until he saw the look in the raven-haired boy's eyes. Naruto looked from Sasuke to Inari and saw the tears welling up in Inari's eyes. Huffing, Naruto sat down back at his table as he watched Inari run back to his room. The next morning, Kakashi finally woke up, and after filling in Yugao with the happenings of the mission, they both came down the stairs to meet their respective charges. Yugao and I were discussing the mission, and we both realized that there is a strong possibility that Zabuza might not be dead, and that the ninja that disappeared with Zabuza's body might be his accomplice rather than a ninja of the mist. Kakashi told the group of genin without revealing any of the emotions he himself felt on the matter. As expected, the genin all wore looks of shock and confusion. Kakashi-sensei, Zabuza got attacked with 2 senbons to the neck. How would he have survived that attack? Sakura asked her sensei. Kakashi discussed the roles of the hunter ninja and their responsibilities as protectors of their village's secrets. What puzzled me the most was the fact that the hunter ninja did not destroy Zabuza's body at the scene and instead chose to disappear with it. It is quite possible to knock someone out by hitting the precise points of their body. Zabuza could be back soon. We have to train ourselves to be able to fight against him, Kakashi finished, fixing the genin with a serious look to emphasize the severity of the situation. Don't worry, Kakashi-san. You have Yugao-sensei and me this time, Naruto said. If we can have reinforcements, what makes you think Gado won't send someone else with Zabuza to even things up? Yugao asked Naruto. The blonde had no answer to Yugao's question and so chose to address Kakashi instead. So what are we training on? Yugao and Kakashi led the genin towards a clearing in the woods behind Tazuna's house. They had agreed that Naruto would need training in chakra control as well, since it was an important aspect of all shinobi's development. As Yugao demonstrated to the 4 genin how to go about with completing the chakra control exercise, Kakashi explained the principles of the exercise and its importance. A ninja in battle will need to channel chakra for a variety of reasons. For example, throwing around jutsu while fighting on top of water requires a great deal of control and ability. If you were solely focusing on staying on top of the water, how could you expect to fight against an opponent? Kakashi explained. What Yugao is doing now is one of the most basic forms of chakra control exercises. Master this technique and you will be one step closer to becoming a better ninja. Knowing exactly how much chakra is needed for a jutsu ensures that it is most effective and doesn't waste any of your stores, abundant as they might be, Kakashi finished, looking at Naruto as he finished his last statement. With the demonstration over, Yugao tossed the 4 genin a kunai each to mark their progress with the exercises on the trees they selected. Within moments, Sakura had managed to cover significant ground on her control exercise and quickly reached a high branch on the tree, surprising everyone at the speed with which she completed the exercise. Yugao and Kakashi shared equally astonished looks on their faces as Kakashi commended the girl of the group on her progress. Well done, Sakura. Continue with the exercise to develop your stamina. Tomorrow you will be on guard duty with Yugao and Tazuna. Sakura beamed with pride at having completed the chakra control exercise first, but within the hour, she was sweating bullets as she finally collapsed in a heap, unable to carry on any further. Ranmaru and Sasuke were doing admirably well, with each run taking them closer to the top. They were panting hard as well with the exertion, but it was Naruto that surprised her. The blonde's progress was achingly slow, but as soon as he landed he was back up, running towards the tree. As she saw Naruto flip back off the tree after his latest attempt, she watched as he walked over to her instead of running up against the tree. "Na Sakura-chan, could you give me some pointers? I don't seem to be making much progress and both Sasuke and Ranmaru seem miles ahead at this point," Naruto asked Sakura. Sakura outlined what she learned during the course of the exercise and made suggestions as per her observations of Naruto's attempts so far. Thanking the pink-haired girl, Naruto went headed towards the tree he had marred with kunai slashes. As dusk approached, Sakura left the boys to their own devices. She idly noticed that Naruto was catching up to the other boys. When it was time for dinner, the 3 boys returned to Tazuna's house, famished to the point that they were barely able to drag themselves past the door and into the house. As soon as they were able to shovel some food down their gut, the boys began eating at a more relaxed pace, and so conversation picked up around the table after the other members of the table stopped staring at the boys' antics. Spying a photo frame on the wall opposite the table, Ranmaru noticed that the picture within the photo was torn away at one side, effectively removing a person from the picture. Curious as the reason why, Ranmaru asked Tazuna what had happened. Tazuna told the Konoha ninja about Kaiza, Tsunami's late husband, with a mixture of sadness and pride. Midway during the story, Inari stormed off to his room, visibly upset with having to recount the events that destroyed his faith in heroes. It had been close to a week since the tree climbing exercises began, and Sasuke and Ranmaru had finished mastering the exercises a few days before. Ranmaru and Sasuke had joined Sakura at the bridge to protect Tazuna while Yugao oversaw Naruto's training in the chakra climbing exercise. It was understandable that Naruto needed more time than the others to finish the task. He was not dedicating his entire training time solely to the chakra control exercise. On alternate days, Yugao would pull Naruto away from the group to ensure that Naruto's sword skills were not getting rusty. It had been 2 days since Yugao and Kakashi explained the chakra control exercises to the genin. While Sakura had finished the exercise on the first day, she would spend a few hours in the morning continuing to build her stamina. None of the boys could match the height she could climb on the tree, but Sasuke was steadily catching, followed closely by both Naruto and Ranmaru. As the genin left Tazuna's house to fulfill their respective duties, Naruto was pulled back by Yugao. "You are training with me today," she said curtly. As Naruto followed Yugao into the woods, she arrived at a clearing where she stopped and turned around to face her charge. As Kakashi and I suspect, the masked hunter ninja they had an encounter with earlier might very well be a member of Zabuza's team. "If that is the case, I need to train you better so that you can hold your own against him," Yugao said, as she pulled out a scroll from a pocket in her jacket. "It's time you got your own sword, Naruto. You have improved tremendously over the last few months, and this opponent is the real deal. He is probably attacking with the intent to kill, which means we can't be charging up against him with a bakken," Yugao continued, releasing a little chakra into the storage scroll and catching the scabbard that popped out of the scroll. As Naruto processed the words, his eyes bugged out of their sockets when he saw the scroll release the scabbard. As Yugao unsheathed the blade within the scabbard, Naruto noticed that it was a pure black sword, from pommel to point. The blade was slender and slightly curved with a square guard and a significantly large grip. Naruto recognized the single-edged blade instantaneously. A katana, Naruto thought to himself. Yugao took a few practice swings with the blade and then handed it over to Naruto. "It's a standard ANBU katana, very light and extremely durable. It doesn't reflect a lot of light and makes it quite a lethal weapon for use with its razor-sharp blade. This is no toy, Naruto. You can cut yourself if you are not careful. We don't want that. We want to cut the enemy." Yugao finished with an exclamation. Naruto took the blade reverently from Yugao and studied it. Holding the scabbard in his left hand, he took a few practice swings with the sword. The sword had the same length as the bakken he was using but weighed a fraction less than the training sword. Naruto realized that regardless of the encounter, he was bound to inherit this sword sooner or later. It was so remarkably similar to his training sword that he realized that Yugao had meant for him to be a katana user, at least primarily. The grip was made with black-colored leather that sat comfortably within Naruto's palm. Naruto swung the sword in both the single and the double-handed grip. It was not too heavy to handle with a single-handed grip, and Naruto was pleased to note that. Go through your katas, all of them. Get used to the sword, its feel, weight and balance. We will be in battle soon and I could ill afford to have you in a fight with an unknown weapon, Yugao instructed Naruto. Yugao scrutinized every movement the blonde made as he moved through the routines she had instructed him in, slowly at first, and picking up pace once he had assured himself to be at ease with the weapon. Yugao was pleased as Naruto showed improvements in his movements, as he acclimatized himself with the sword. After a couple hours of going through the motions, Yugao beckoned Naruto to join her for a light lunch before they recommenced their training. Naruto placed the sword in the black scabbard and tied the strap across his hip, allowing the sword to be drawn from the left side of his body. As they ate their fill, Naruto and Yugao spoke about the impending battle and their thoughts on the issue. Sakura and Kakashi told me that the boy that works with Zabuza uses Senbon with deadly accuracy. It stands to reason that you will be fighting against him, with or without help. If you do fight against him, it is critical that you are not hit by any of those Senbon. If he could put Zabuza in a temporary death state from a great distance from a tree, I am sure he could do some damage to you, Yugao told Naruto, unsure whether the large gulp from the blonde was a consequence of swallowing the food he had just ingested or an involuntary reaction to the fear she had put into him. You are fast, Naruto, but that ninja with Zabuza might be even faster. We can't discount that possibility, so we are going to spend the rest of the day training you to dodge projectiles. If you can't dodge one of them, we have to make sure you block them at the very least, Yugao continued, satisfied when she saw Naruto nod in acceptance with a renewed fire in his eyes. This is why she had picked the boy to train. He had a tenacity that was not found in most his age. His will to survive was unparalleled, unsurprising considering the torment of abuse he was subject to for the vast majority of his life. As they finished up their meal, Yugao spent the next half hour instructing Naruto on how to optimize his movements, and use his sword to block in a way where he would not lose sight of his opponent, but still managed to avoid being hit by whatever projectile was thrown at him. Having digested the food, both master and student began training. Yugao began with throwing kunai at the boy from directly in front of him, adding in shuriken at random intervals to confuse him with the changes in trajectory and speed. By the end of the day, Naruto was severely bruised, but he had managed to dodge the majority of the projectiles as well as block most of the few that he was unable to skip past. It was the ones that he was unable to both dodge and block that were responsible for his current state of affairs. However, Naruto and Yugao both noticed that the benefit of having a large chakra monster in one's belly was the amazing regenerative powers. Naruto had healed from most of the scrapes and was raring to continue until Yugao decided that overexertion at this stage could be quite detrimental to the blonde's training. Naruto had left Tazuna's house at the advent of dawn to get some training in the chakra control exercises before he was due to train with Yugao again. He had made good progress with the sword, and the few spars he had had with Yugao lasted more than a minute before Yugao had struck him with a conclusive blow, which was a lot longer than his spars in Konoha. It's a thinking man's battle, Naruto remembered Yugao's words as he ran up against a newly selected tree. The previous one was so littered with marks that it was hard to recognize if he made any progress on it or not. Naruto was upset that Sasuke had finished the exercise well before him but understood that he was training to become a swordsman, and had to prioritize accordingly. Sasuke had a plethora of questions for Kakashi. The man was clearly not an Uchiha but was still in possession of a Sharingan eye. The trait did not exist outside of the Uchiha clan, and to the best of his recollections, surely did not develop in just a solitary eye. So how does Kakashi-sensei have that eye in the first place? Unfortunately for Sasuke, the tree-climbing exercise and the subsequent guard duty on the bridge did not exactly cater for a question-and-answer session with his Jonin sensei. He would have to wait until they were back in Konoha. In any case, the information he would gain would have more meaning when he had unlocked his own Sharingan eye. Sasuke had noticed that Naruto had gotten a lot better with his overall skills than when they had left the academy, but that was to be expected with any genin. What intrigued Sasuke about the blonde was his commitment to his swordsmanship. Naruto trained with his Jonin sensei Yugao every other day and came back with scrapes and bruises all over his body but was raring for another session as soon as possible. It was blatantly obvious that the boy enjoyed his training. The delight in Naruto's eyes as he outlined his training regime and exercises over the dinner table conveyed the message loud and clear. Truth be told, Sasuke was a little bit jealous about Naruto's situation. He had a master whose sole focus was on improving her charge's ability as a ninja. Sasuke was an avenger. He had had this path chosen for him by his brother all those years ago. He had sworn to himself that he would get good enough to beat Itachi, and Sasuke could definitely appreciate the benefits of having a personal instructor. Despite the jealousy, Sasuke felt no animosity towards Naruto. The boy had had his share of rotten luck from all he had heard from Sakura and the others, and he deserved this kind twist of fate. Sasuke had isolated himself ever since the massacre, and rarely met his friends when he was younger. He did not feel comfortable explaining his situation with any of his peers and had accordingly chosen not to do so, alluding to his plight with the barest of details when Kakashi had asked him to introduce himself to the members of Team 7 on the rooftop of the academy building the day after graduation. Sasuke correctly assumed that Naruto had felt at ease with the troubled raven-haired boy as well. Since the meeting in Wave was their first since graduation, Naruto had spent all his free time discussing a myriad of matters almost exclusively with him. While most of the conversation focused on shinobi matters like improving with the tree climbing technique, or Zabuza's use of the water clones while fighting Kakashi, Sasuke did not understand Naruto's fixation with the clone technique. He assumed that it perhaps was something of a bond between swordsmen. Now that he knew of Naruto's apprenticeship, Sasuke knew that Naruto valued their time together, and Sasuke was realizing that he was opening up more to the blonde in the week that they had been in Wave than anyone else over the past couple of years. When Sasuke first realized that the blonde had wormed his way into cracking a part of the wall he had stubbornly built up, he had been shocked, but this feeling was instantaneously replaced by gratitude. Sasuke spent all his free time in Konoha training in some aspect of the shinobi arts, and his lack of interaction with his peers outside of Team 7, most of whom he did not trust fully to let down his walls, was severely limited. Naruto's training in Kenjutsu had always been away from the group, but Sasuke knew that the blonde was recognized to have enough potential for the complicated art. Then he would have not only a friend in Naruto, perhaps, dare he say it, a rival as well. Yugao had long since left Naruto to train in his chakra control exercise, giving him all the pointers she saw fit but leaving him with the vast majority of the thinking still to do. She noted he had made progress on the exercise and was fairly sure that he would have it mastered by the end of the day. As Naruto stumbled into the Tazuna household well past dinner time with a proud smile on his face, Yugao caught the boy before his face introduced itself to the wooden flooring of the house. He has trained himself to exhaustion just to finish the exercise, possibly because he could catch up to his peers. As she carried the boy to his futon and let him lay there until he recuperated, Yugao thought of her adventures with the boy and how tumultuous her life had been since that discreet encounter some 4 years ago. Yugao and Kakashi let Naruto have a lie in the following morning after considering the state in which he had returned the previous night. Once he was well rested, he could join the rest of the Konoha shinobi on the bridge. They had suspected that Zabuza would have recovered sufficiently from his previous battle, and could make another attempt on Tazuna's life soon, and therefore all hands were on deck, or in this situation, the bridge, for the protection of the client. As they headed to the bridge, Sakura thought about how Naruto had changed since she had last spied him on graduation day, looking desperately forlorn as he sulked away from the celebrating group. He had grown in her eyes, not physically, but he held a certain sharpness in his eyes, and that quality was quite often seen when he conducted himself as a ninja. When the group was on their downtime, he acted like the carefree person they had all grown to know when they were younger, but when it was time for his training, it was as though a switch was hit in the boy, making him all business. Naruto had been a true friend to her, Ino and the rest of their gang, but with their inevitable separation post-graduation, she had not been able to spend a lot of time with the blonde, and from her lack of awareness of his graduation, clearly not enough time to catch up on the events leading to his arrival in Wave. Between Sakura finishing the chakra control exercise first and heading off to guard duty on the bridge and Naruto's endless conversations with Sasuke at dinner, she had barely spoken to the boy and vowed to change that on their return journey. They had lots to catch up on, and Sakura did miss the times they spent together, even if it was in a ragtag group of clan heirs and social pariahs. Naruto felt very refreshed when he awoke the following morning. As the memories of his previous day played through his mind, he recalled how he had managed to drag himself to Tazuna's house, and faintly recalled someone catching him before he fell face first onto the floor of the house. Stretching contentedly, Naruto realized that the other beds in the room were all empty and that the house was eerily quiet. Within seconds Naruto had realized he had been abandoned by Yugao and Team 7 and bolted down the stairs to where he spotted Tsunami working quietly in the kitchen. "Ah, Naruto-kun, you are awake. Kakashi-sen said you might not be up till well past noon," Tsunami said with a smile on her face, unaware to the frustrations Naruto was feeling. "I knew it!" Naruto shouted, causing Tsunami to yelp in surprise. Naruto ran back upstairs to change his clothes and grab his sword so that he could join the other Konoha ninjas at the bridge. As Naruto left the house, he spied Inari and turned to face them. "Can you believe they left me behind?" Naruto shouted in the direction of Inari, who had not seen the blonde and was taken aback by the sheer shrillness of the boy's rant. Naruto hopped from one tree branch to the next as fast as he could to cover the time he had lost whilst in his slumber. He was so focused on cussing out his team for not involving him in their plan for the day that he nearly missed spotting a wild boar that was ruthlessly slashed up in the forest en route to the bridge. Stopping to inspect the damage, Naruto recognized the slashes had come from swords and saw that a series of slashes continued away from the boar and back in the direction that he had just come from. Damn it! Gato was unsure about the ambush on the bridge that he had Zabuza carry out. The ninja that had been hired for the wretched bridge builder, Tazuna's, protection were quite capable, especially when led by the infamous Kakashi Hatake. The destruction of the bridge was paramount to Gato's continued success, as it would not only eliminate competition, but would also sap the morale of the people of the Land of Waves, which would make them more subservient. Furthermore, he had heard that the Konoha ninja had been reinforced with 2 other ninjas. Without looking up from his desk, Gato spoke in a quiet tone. Make sure the situation on the bridge goes smoothly. Kill Zabuza if needed, and his little minion too. In a shimmer, a ninja appeared dressed in a white and blue camouflage shirt and dark blue pants. The ninja bowed low as he accepted his mission, the sunlight that beamed through a solitary window in the office reflecting off the scratched-out cloud hit he wore on his left arm. Naruto rushed back to Tezuna's house as quickly as he could, adamant not to let anything happen to Tsunami and Inari. Naruto reached just in time to see Inari charging towards two samurai in an effort to save his mother, unarmed and outnumbered. As the taller of the two samurai made his way to cut down the boy, Naruto intercepted his sword slash with a block from his own. The sudden block caught Waraji off guard and as a result was totally helpless to defend himself to the swift kick Naruto aimed towards the larger man's temple. As Naruto's heavy kick caught the man, he fell to the floor in a heap, causing Zora to turn in the direction of the clash, inadvertently allowing Tsunami to run away from her captors and towards her son. As Zora drew his sword upon seeing Naruto use his to beat him colleague, he sneered disdainfully at the seemingly inept ninja before him. As Naruto took his stance, Zora charged the blonde in an attempt to mow him down and salvage this little side mission that Gato had assigned to the pair. Naruto dodged the vertical slash by Zora by skipping to his left and ducking under the subsequent sideways slash that followed up. Once inside Zora's guard, Naruto jumped up, with his sword in a reverse grip, and smashed at Zora's chin with the pommel of the sword, jarring the man's jaw and knocking him unconscious. After securing a length of rope from Inari, Naruto tied the two samurai for hire to ensure they would not cause any trouble. You were very brave, Inari, a little stupid but very brave. I have to go save my friends now, Naruto said to the smaller boy, patting him on the head and bounding off through the forest towards the bridge. Sasuke was in a conundrum, and right now the conundrum had taken the shape of a loose dome, made of ice mirrors. His masked opponent had stepped into one of the mirrors and immediately appeared on the faces of all the mirrors. He knew Kakashi and Yuga were fighting Zabuza together in hopes of getting a quick victory, so as to settle this matter once and for all, he would have to fight his way out of this one by himself, a prospect he was relishing. As Kakashi spotted the trouble Sasuke was in, he instructed Yuga to help the boy out of his predicament. Acknowledging the order, Yuga took off towards the mysterious dome but was required to step back a mere 10 meters from the ice dome in order to dodge a barrage of kunai that had been sent in her direction. Turning to face her hitherto unspotted attacker, Yuga gasped as she recognized the man whose arm was still outstretched. This had been the man that had ended her ANBU career and the man that led her on to the path of being Naruto's Jonin sensei. She had mixed feelings about the circumstances that followed after her previous battle with this ninja but had no mixed feelings towards him. She loathed the man for what he had done to her arm. The pain of losing sensitivity in her left arm, and the tormented time she had fighting off the infection that followed and the subsequent ejection from her ANBU duties ensured she had but one emotion to spare towards the man that faced her, unadulterated anger. Mere seconds after Sasuke had been the sole focus of a multitude of near-simultaneous attacks from various angles, he was no more relishing the prospect of pitting wit and skill against this opponent. He was faster than Sasuke was and unfortunately, the Uchiha had not come up with a way of neutralizing the threat he posed with his Senbon. Sasuke had picked up a plethora of bruises and scrapes minutes after the contest had started. In fact, he was so bruised that in comparison he made Naruto seem unblemished after a training session with Yugao. Chuckling to himself at the thought of thinking about the blonde in a situation like the one he was faced with allowed him to calm down a little and analyze the situation. I'm not being attacked by clones, that's for sure. These mirrors are somehow enhancing his speed to a level where it is impossible for me to follow, Sasuke thought to himself. Naruto spotted Sasuke trapped within the ice dome, unmoving but still on his feet. Unaware that Sasuke was just analyzing the situation in the brief respite he had been afforded, Naruto feared the worst and dashed into the ice dome to check up on his friend. As Naruto entered the dome and shook Sasuke, he snapped the boy out of his little reverie. What? Naruto? What are you doing here? Sasuke asked as he was shocked to find the boy within the ice dome. You're alive? Man, I thought you were about to collapse. You were just standing there doing nothing. Geez, you had me scared there, Naruto replied, relief seeping into his voice once he realized that the raven-haired boy was not incapacitated. As Sasuke was about to berate the boy for not thinking before charging in, he had to focus his attentions on dodging the Senbon that were let loose from the projections in the ice mirror. Dodge, Sasuke said, quickly alerting Naruto to the impending danger and trying to prevent his own hide from resembling that of a porcupine. Naruto remembered his lessons with Yugao and quickly pulled his sword out to assist in ensuring he did not become a human pincushion. Unfortunately for the blonde, the needles came at him from multiple sources and he was unable to block the vast majority of the Senbon from pricking his skin. As the masked ninja, Haku, was forced to split his attention between Naruto and Sasuke while focusing on controlling the vast amount of chakra required sustaining the demonic mirroring ice crystals technique, Sasuke noticed that the speed with which both he and Naruto were being attacked had dropped fractionally. As wave after wave of Senbon were sent hurtling towards the boys, Sasuke was slowly able to discern the movements of his attacker. He had not realized that he had unlocked his Sharingan, allowing him to see the movements of his attacker better. Sasuke had assumed that it was Haku's fatigue that had led to the eventual slowing down of his attack speed, not the unlocking of the Uchiha Kekkai Genkai. However, Naruto had no such luck with avoiding the relentless attack. Having blocked the brunt of the attack with various parts of his body, Naruto had barely enough strength to hold his body up, falling onto one knee and panting heavily from the exertion of dodging all those damnable Senbon. As soon as Yugao had spotted her attacker, she unsheathed her sword and charged at him. Recognizing the posture and stance that his attacker assumed, the former Cloud Ninja brought up his own sword to block the attack, intending to cleave his body in twain. As they interlocked blades and fought for dominance, the former Cloud Shinobi decided to introduce himself to his attacker. "Akunoichi-san, we meet again. May I have the honor of learning your name this time?" Scoffing at her attacker, Yugao pushed off her blade and created some separation between the two sword users. "It's common courtesy to offer your own name before you ask for someone else's. Where are my manners?" the Cloud Ninja said patronizingly. "My name is Kin Kojiro. That attack of yours on my leg has severely hampered me, you know. I fully intend to make you suffer the same pain." As the two ninja charged towards each other, they recommenced their deadly duel with the blades, intent on chopping the other's head off. As the blades entwined once again, Kin asked Yugao for her name once again. Headbutting her opponent to give her a momentary advantage, Yugao followed up with a horizontal slash, which Kin had managed to dodge by leaning back in a show of flexibility that did nothing to lend credence to his age. Sweeping the legs from under the off-balanced man, Yugao knocked her opponent to the ground. "Yugao Yuzuki," she said simply, intent on ending the life of the man in front of her. As she prepared for her decisive swing, she was forced to dodge a pair of shuriken headed straight for her face, providing Kin with sufficient time to get back on his feet and assume his stance. Kakashi was quite perplexed when Zabuza had nullified the principal advantage of the Sharingan. Fighting against a master of the art of the silent killing, in a mist so heavy that he could barely see 2 feet in front of him, was not conducive to his health. Sasuke had just jumped to save Naruto from being marked with a dozen Senbon off his body. He could see Haku's movements clearly now and had intercepted the masked ninja with a solid kick to the face, but picked up a vast number of Senbon for his troubles. As one of the Senbon attacked a nerve cluster in his neck that would put him in an unconscious state for a while, he turned around to make sure Naruto was safe for the time being. "That's the last time I can save your life now, Naruto," Sasuke said, turning to face the blonde before falling to the floor. Naruto caught Sasuke before he could hit the floor and gently placed him on the bridge. Sasuke showed no signs of life as Naruto handled him. As Naruto lay his body over the prone Uchiha, he shook with raw emotion. "Sasuke died saving me, and that masked idiot is going to pay for what he did." Unknowingly, Naruto leaked out an uncontrollable amount of the Kyuubi's chakra, healing his wounds at a tremendous rate and turning his fingers into claws. Charging towards the nearest mirror, Naruto drew his sword and slashed at the mirror. The force of the sword slash knocked the blade out of his hand as he spotted Haku switch from one mirror to the next. Dodging a brace of Senbon sent towards him from Haku, Naruto grabbed Haku's leg as he passed by and shot a beam of chakra from his hand. Without intending to cast the chakra beam jutsu, catching Haku flush in the face, shattering the mask that covered his face into innumerable pieces. As Naruto continued his attack, he was brought to a standstill when he noticed the face that was once behind the mask. This cannot be the face of a killer. What's happening? What's happening to me? As Naruto's anger was replaced by his confusion, the red chakra that had seeped out of him earlier began to recede back into his body. "Why do you wait, Ninja-san? I just killed your friend. Seek your revenge," Haku said to Naruto, pieces of the mask piercing his once unblemished skin, causing rivulets of blood to streak down his face. As Naruto turned to face Sasuke, his anger boiled up once again and he decided to channel that emotion into a single solid punch that caught Haku flush on the right cheek, knocking the boy off his feet and causing him to land with an echoing thud on the bridge. When the suffocating chakra had emitted from the direction of Naruto's and Sasuke's battle, Yugao had feared the worst. Surely the seal could not have broken. Unfortunately for her, Yugao had had her own battle to focus on, and despite the temporary distraction, Kin had once again gained his bearings and charged the former Inbu. Intent on ending her battle so that she could check up on Naruto, Yugao met her attacker's charge with a charge of her own. As the pair crossed swords in a flurry of attacks, Yugao managed to dodge a horizontal slash by ducking underneath it, and whilst rising upwards, slashed her opponent from right hip to left shoulder. Kin fell to the bridge lifelessly as he sputtered blood from his mouth with his final breaths. The spike of the Kyuubi's chakra had ended as soon as it started. The volatile chakra had disappeared almost instantaneously, receding back into Naruto before Kin had even hit the floor. Kakashi was paranoid, and rightfully so, as he knew full well what kind of destructive ability that chakra had caused in the past. Intent on finishing his battle with Zabuza so that he could run damage control on the situation with Naruto, Kakashi summoned his dogs to help track down the elusive former 7 ninja swordsman of the mist. Without warning, Zabuza was trapped by a pack of dogs, firmly holding him in place. He was completely helpless. Charging the chakra required for his patented assassination jutsu, Kakashi offered Zabuza a last chance to surrender before carrying out the execution. As Haku wearily got up from after being clobbered by Naruto, he recognized the imminent danger that Zabuza was in and quickly teleported towards his master. Kakashi charged forwards after Zabuza spat at his offer for surrender and thrust his arm forward. The lightning-encased forearm was moments away from ending Zabuza's life when, Via the use of a teleportation jutsu, Haku appeared between the two and played the role of a human shield. As Kakashi's potent jutsu impaled the younger boy, Zabuza was able to escape the threat of death, at least momentarily. With the shock of finishing off the wrong target, Kakashi briefly realized that the flash of Kyuubi's chakra had dissipated and was no longer an issue that required immediate attention. Zabuza took the opportunity to counter against Kakashi in this brief moment of distraction, but was unable to land a decisive blow on his opponent. Kakashi quickly retaliated, incapacitating his opponent by rendering his arms useless. "It's over, Zabuza, give up," Kakashi said solemnly, turning to face the dead body of Haku. As the mist cleared up, Naruto was finally able to take stock of the situation. Yugao had won her battle against some ninja that he had not seen before. Her opponent lay dead in a pool of his own blood. Yugao noticed Naruto looking around and made her way towards the blonde. Naruto noticed Sakura and Ranmaru, who had been tasked with the protection of Tazuna, run towards the direction of Sasuke. As Sakura broke down into tears clutching the beaten Uchiha fiercely, Ranmaru offered the girl what little comfort he could. Gato arrived on the bridge to notice that Kin had been killed. It was a shame really, Kin had been an excellent ally over the past few years. But he wasn't irreplaceable. "I'll just have to hire another tool." As he led a group of hired swords towards the fatigued ninja, Gato callously stepped on the arm of the now dead Haku. Yugao guided Naruto towards Kakashi as the three of them, along with Zabuza, faced the prospect of fighting off against Gato's men. It would have been an easy contest had it not been for the fatigue and the incapacitated demon of the mist. "Kakashi, my fight with you is over. That bastard dared to defile Haku's memory. Toss me a kunai, will you?" Kakashi said nothing as he tossed the worn-out Zabuza a spare kunai, which was caught in his mouth. Without pausing, Zabuza took off against the mob in front of him, tearing apart the amateur mercenaries with reckless abandon, reaching the cowering Gato at the end of the group and separating the smuggler's head from the rest of his body without a moment's hesitation. With the various swords he had accumulated in his back, Zabuza finally fell down to the floor. The demon of the mist had breathed his last breath, fighting to salvage the pride of his tool, defeating the oppressor of the land of waves. As Kakashi and Yugao looked on, Naruto was not able to bring himself to lay eyes on the scene that unfolded in front of him. Despite all his claims to the contrary, Zabuza had truly cared for Haku, and his devil-may-care attitude towards his own life as he mowed down the bulk of the attacking mob illustrated the true extent of his feelings. "Naruto," Yugao called, "do not look away. You might have witnessed the death of a supposed madman, but he fought valiantly, and with purpose, until his last breath. Moreover, Zabuza was one of the greatest swordsmen ever to have lived. Pay your respects, kid." Yugao had great admiration for Zabuza's skills, and while she did not approve of his attempted coup d'état, she was smart enough to recognize the man's skills. As Inari gathered the populace of Wave to put up a brave stance against the remnants of the mob, Kakashi boosted their numbers through the use of Kage Bunshin, causing the hired swords to quickly lose their bravado as they fled from the bridge. As Naruto turned back to face the crowd that Inari had gathered, he spotted Sasuke get up from the floor with the help of Ranmaru. Sakura shouted towards Kakashi and Naruto to tell them that Sasuke was all right, and Naruto breathed a huge sigh of relief. Sasuke was not dead after all, and that was always good news. Zabuza, Haku and Kin were given burials by the Konoha Nin, Zabuza and Haku next to each other, and Kin some ways off. After a couple of weeks, the building of the bridge was completed and Team 7's official mission had come to a close. After a teary goodbye, Kakashi led the ninjas towards Konoha, determined to get away from all the fighting of the past 2 weeks in order to get some well-deserved rest and relaxation. As they faded into the horizon, Tazuna had realized that they had yet to name the bridge after its completion. "What do we call the bridge?" Tazuna asked the crowd gathered behind him. From his place near his grandfather, Inari pulled on Tazuna's pant leg, forcing the older man to look down towards the younger boy. Looking up at his grandfather, Inari spoke 3 words that would be met with a chorus of approval. "Bridge of Hope," Inari said. As soon as they hit the border of the Land of Fire and the Land of Waves, the Konoha ninja took to a more relaxed formation, seeing as to how they were not in hostile territory. Kakashi had recognized that Naruto was the son of his sensei and former Hokage the minute he had laid eyes on him. While he had not made contact with the boy until his brutal beatdown near a bar in Konoha, he had made moderate attempts to keep tabs on the boy. However, Kakashi seemed to have missed out on most of the malice that surrounded the boy. He wasn't completely at fault in this regard, as whenever he had spotted Naruto in the past, the blonde wore a carefree smile, and showed no adverse reaction to the hostile glares he received from those around him. The adoption of Naruto into the Nara family had finally leaked crucial information that was hidden from the vast majority of the population concerning the treatment he received. While the hostility and occasional verbal abuse that followed the boy was evident for all to see, how Kakashi had managed to miss out on the instances of physical abuse had him hang his head in shame. It was only during that one instance behind that bar in Konoha that Kakashi was offered a true picture of the life of Naruto Uzumaki. Even in that instance, all he could offer Naruto was a glass of water, and nothing more. Kakashi was more than willing, and capable, of apprehending Naruto's attacker and handing out his own brand of justice. However, the brutality of the attack had caught him unawares and had caused him to check up on the boy instead of pursuing the unknown attacker. Kakashi was glad that Yugao had forced her way into Naruto's life. He had heard all she had done for the boy from Yugao herself, and was quite embarrassed at himself for not showing even a modicum of the initiative the purple-haired kunoichi had undertaken. As Kakashi hopped amongst the trees, he noticed that the blonde that was currently occupying his thoughts had made an effort to catch up to him after spending the vast majority of their journey talking to the other genin. Ohio Naruto-kun. What can I do for you? I just wanted to talk to you really. Ask you about some things about our time in Wave. Kakashi said nothing as he motioned for Naruto to continue, gesturing with a wave of his hand. I know Yugao-sensei and I were just a little bit late to provide any assistance to you and your team on your first encounter with Zabuza, but I noticed that he had used a bunshin technique which, according to Sasuke, was a solid clone made out of water, quite unlike the one we were taught in the academy. I was wondering if you could tell me more about the technique. Naruto asked. Kakashi idly wondered why Naruto chose to ask him the question and not his designated sensei Yugao. Shrugging in indifference, Kakashi explained that Zabuza used a technique called the Mizu Bunshin, which allows the user to create a clone made out of water that possessed a tenth of the original power of the creator. Kakashi elaborated that similar clones could be made out of other elements as well, such as mud, rock and even wood, and that each clone had advantages and disadvantages as unique as the elements from which they were crafted. As Naruto digested the information Kakashi had bestowed upon him, he traveled in silence as he contemplated the information. The aspects of the clone techniques that Kakashi outlined were not the same as the Bunshin technique described in the Scroll of Seals. Naruto was slightly disappointed but had one more query on the subject matter before he gave up hope on the same. Kakashi-sensei, when we faced off against the mob on the bridge, you created a whole bunch of clones to scare them off. What element were those clones made out of? That wasn't an elemental clone, Naruto. That technique is called the Kage Bunshin and is actually marked as a kinjutsu, Kakashi replied, quite happy to play the role of educator to the ever-inquisitive blonde. That's it. That's the one. I saw this technique in the Scroll of Seals when I was tricked by Mizuki-sensei. Naruto paused as the incident was brought up in his head, and his face contorted in disgust at being duped so simply. Regaining his composure, Naruto continued, it is a Bunshin technique that splits the user's chakra in half, creating a very solid and very capable clone. Kakashi chuckled as he saw the whirlwind of emotions play on Naruto's face, from excitement to anguish to neutral in a matter of seconds. You have good recall, Naruto. Yes, the Kage Bunshin technique allows you to split your chakra, and it is precisely for this reason that it is a forbidden jutsu. If the user overextends himself trying to create too many clones, he could split his chakra so many times that the original would have too little chakra to sustain himself, leading to either chakra exhaustion or worse, death. But you made so many clones when faced against the mob, and that was after your fight with Zabuza. Are you saying you could have died? Naruto asked, face morphing into a look of stupendous disbelief. Not exactly. I have formidable chakra control and quite a large reserve of chakra as well, though not as large as yours. Since we were fighting in a thick mist, Zabuza negated any benefits I would get from using the Sharingan, so I saved a lot of chakra by deactivating it. Naruto thought about what he had learned from Kakashi and decided to risk learning the technique anyway, or at least try to. So can you teach me the technique, Kakashi-sensei? Kakashi was caught unawares by Naruto's request. He had just outlined that using this technique could be detrimental to one's health, and yet the blonde had callously asked to be taught the very same technique. Before he could respond, Naruto continued. I know you said it's dangerous, but you also said that I have a larger chakra reserve than yours. Surely I can handle the technique even if my control isn't as good as yours. Naruto, you should know that there is also one more aspect of the technique that makes it quite dangerous to the user. The clones transfer all their memories back to their user once they have dispelled. Dispel a ton of clones simultaneously, and the mental backlash you might receive could be a shock to your brain. You might turn into a vegetable unable to function anymore. Surely it's not worth it, Kakashi said, trying to convince the boy to change his mind about learning the technique. If Naruto was able to recall the information from the scroll about the principles of the technique, there was a good chance that he learned the hand sign associated with it as well. It was a fairly simple one after all. Memory transfer, huh? Naruto thought to himself. So does that mean that if a clone read a book, I would know what it would learn once it is dispelled? Yes, that is the principle behind it, Kakashi replied. Kakashi decided to try another tactic instead after being unable to convince the boy to change his mind. Naruto, if you wanted to learn the technique so bad, why didn't you learn it the first time, when you saw the technique outlined in the Scroll of Seals? The Bunshin Jutsu was what got me into my mess all those months ago. If I had to learn one technique before my allotted time, no way was I going to waste my time learning a technique I was doomed to fail. But after I saw you and Zabuza use your techniques in combat, learning a clone jutsu like that would be awesome. Can you imagine the damage I could do with that technique? Both in battle, Naruto paused as he rubbed his hands in glee, snickering at himself in pleasure, and outside of it, Kakashi paled at the prospect of Naruto using a forbidden jutsu to unload a veritable torrent of pranks on the unsuspecting populace of Konoha. Kakashi could not ascertain whether using Kage Bunshin to pull off pranks would be at the top of Naruto's priority list, but he knew for sure that things in Konoha would get a lot more interesting if the blonde did learn the technique. All of a sudden, Kakashi felt the urge to teach the boy the forbidden jutsu. There was a good chance that Naruto had remembered the hand sign required to execute the technique, and only refrained from practicing it due to his aversion for the Bunshin variants prior to his mission in the Land of Waves. Moreover, it would be safer if the boy would learn the technique under supervision, lest he do irreparable damage to himself. After convincing himself, Kakashi decided to let Naruto know of his thoughts. Well, I need to speak to Yugao-san first. She is your Jonin-sensei after all and therefore in charge of your training. Yada! Naruto exclaimed, so enthusiastic and excited about this latest development that he nearly missed the branch he had intended to skip off. Quickly regaining his footing, but not all of his pride as the rest of the group stared at his antics, Naruto continued on his merry way towards the large gates of Konoha. What if Godlike Naruto Sword Master Sasuke bashing? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel, and leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.